Chapter 910. In Itsu city, Chin Ong and Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva walked side by side. Suddenly, Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva spoke. Celestial Venerable, it has been 9 days since we agreed to fight. Why don't we walk around and see the effects of spreading enlightenment and eradicating the 3 pests? Chinong pondered for a while and nodded. Since Bodhisattva has invited me, how can I be a disappointment? Then let's go and see how they are doing. Suddenly, the Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva smiled slyly and said, Celestial Venerable, you should change into a disguise with me when we go to investigate secretly. Don't use your current appearance, lest you give yourself away and fail to find out the truth. When he saw Chin Ong nodding in agreement, he pondered for a while and smiled. We should test the fated ones with a merciful heart and see if this city's Buddha nature is deep. Then it transformed into a small sparrow and landed on the branch of a locust tree nearby. Bodhisattva, you're so mischievous. Chin Ong pointed at the sparrow and smiled. I can't imitate you to transform into a beast. And I think that the barbarians are too smelly, so I'll just transform into a Zhou man from Central Plains. After he finished speaking, he turned around, and all the joints in his body crackled loudly. His entire body grew taller, and he turned into an old Qin man with an unusually tall frame and a tough face. He took out a pouch and put it on his shoulder. With a bronze sword at his waist, he said to the sparrow transformed from Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva, Bodhisattva, why don't you change your feathers to look better? When the sparrow heard this, it glanced at him. With a flap of its wings, it transformed into a strange bird with gorgeous feathers and a pure pearl on its head. Chin Ong said again, Bodhisattva, please come up to my shoulder. The strange bird with colorful feathers pounced onto his shoulder. Chin Ong laughed and strode toward the market in Itsu city. Along the way, he shouted, I'm a merchant from Central Plains. I collect the world's treasures and sell them. Today, I've come to Itsu city to sell the treasures of the 3 sects. These 3 treasures are not easy to obtain. If you are interested, you must make a deal with me. Chi muddle-headedly wandered in the city, where slaves and poor people lived, avoiding the people who were chasing him. He staggered in the muddy alleys, smelling the rancid smell of cattle and horses. He also had to pay attention to the feces under his feet. He was no longer the prestigious 6th prince. Instead, he was a son who had been abandoned by his father, a prince who was not favored. Chi lay staggered towards the market. The hunger in his stomach made him delirious, and he could only concentrate on the basic visualization diagram in the all-true vein 2 phases reincarnation magic in his spiritual ocean. In the diagram, there was a Buddha sitting on Lianhua, looking down at the universe, and behind him were countless tiny Sanskrit characters. It was the Buddha of infinite light. Relying on the seed of the only divine power he had visualized, the banner that was revolving around the Buddha wheel of infinite light rotated as he chanted the mantra. As it rotated, the dark golden Sanskrit characters drawn on it would glow faintly, from which came bursts of Sanskrit chanting, suppressing the fire of hunger and cooling his tired body. If I didn't have this Vajra 7 treasures glass water visualization technique, which allows me to visualize a 7 treasures golden banner, I would have been killed long ago. Thinking of this, Chi Lei's eyes couldn't help but turn red. He thought of his brothers, who were all greedy and vicious, who wanted to kill him as soon as possible. He didn't know how many dangers they had experienced along the way. I hate him so much. Although that man from the central region killed my uncle, the golden cloth he gave me that recorded the all-true vein 2 phases reincarnation magic is a truly earth-shattering treasure. After Chi Lei had practiced this visualization technique, he realized how broad and profound this magic was. Its power was incredible, and it was definitely not the unorthodox magic that the 2 cultivators from the central region said. He thought to himself that the 2 people from the central region probably didn't have any achievements in cultivation, and that was why they passed this earth-shattering magic to him. When I master this magic, These people who bullied me and harmed me will all die miserably, miserably. At this moment, the shadows of many people flashed through his mind. The first prince and second prince who wanted to kill him, the other princes who insulted him, and the two people from the central region who killed his uncle. One with a hairy face and a mouth like a monkey, the other with a jade-like face like a young man, and his father who treated him with disdain. All these people must die. Father, I must let you know how big of a mistake you have made. Chi Lei roared in a low voice, and the one who stole the golden cloth that recorded the all-true vein 2 phases reincarnation magic. I will definitely find out who ordered them to do so, and I will definitely take back the all-true vein 2 phases reincarnation magic. Chi Lei's anger turned into threads of psyche power, nourishing the 7 treasures golden pagoda in his sea of consciousness, making it slightly more solid, and activating the power of the Yin demon in the heavenly demon extreme painting in Qin Ang's hand. A speck of light fell, and a cool and cold feeling fell from the center of his eyebrows to his chest, turning into a warm flow that nourished his entire body, suppressing the fire of hunger, and giving him strength out of nowhere, just like a strong adult man. This was just an insignificant ability of the Diamond 7 Treasures raising glass water meditation technique that Chi Lei had discovered. It could absorb his emotions, thoughts, and other impure psyche power, turning them into strength, allowing him to drag his hungry and tired body, escaping many searches. Moreover, he also knew that this 7 Treasures golden pagoda could not only absorb his psyche power, but also the psyche power of others. As long as other people had reverence, belief, hatred, and other thoughts towards him, it could be absorbed by the 7 Treasures golden pagoda in his sea of consciousness, turning them into his own psyche power, using them to activate the 7 treasures on the golden pagoda, giving it all kinds of magical powers. However, with his current psyche power, the psyche of those who chased after him, and the remaining hatred of those who lived in his shadow, it was not enough to visualize all 7 treasures. In fact, the 7 Treasures golden pagoda had only opened the first layer of the dragon elephant Vajra pagoda, which could turn psyche power into supreme strength. With this ability, he managed to escape from the dozens of killers chasing after him until now. Thinking about this, Chi Lei couldn't help but hate the mysterious person who stole the golden cloth even more. However, he knew that with his current ability, it was far from the time to go back and take revenge. His mind was randomly recalling some things to provide psyche power to the 7 Treasures golden pagoda. Chi Lei gradually approached the market. His eyes flashed with an ominous glint. He had already made up his mind to cause a scene, kill a few people, steal some food, and at the same time spread his fierce name, which would at least provide some wish power to support the 7 Treasures golden pagoda. However, there was a commotion in front of him. Chi Lei curiously followed, only to see a tall Qin man with a gorgeous bird standing on his shoulder, hawking his wares. The Qin man was tall, very conspicuous in the crowd. He loudly said, "I have 3 great treasures of the 3 sects, priceless, not easy to obtain, only given to those who are fated. This treasure of the first sect is a secret technique that can allow one to become immortal and God, called the Mystic Lord's 7 Chapters. Although it is incomplete, it has endless magical powers." Chapter 911. Supreme Incantation. Chi Lei sneered, "You brat, what a boastful tone you have. You really know how to boast. If there really is such a magical power, why don't you cultivate it yourself, but sell it here?" The old Qin man glanced at him and smiled. "My esteemed guest, you must be joking. How could an ordinary person be able to cultivate such a powerful divine ability and Dharma spell? I won't hide it from you. It's a coincidence that this treasure fell into my hands. Its previous owner died a violent death after reading this book. His family thought it was a bad omen, so they sold it to me. There were 3 volumes at that time, and all of them were lost. I didn't dare to read this book without permission, so I asked around and found out that it was written by the ancient immortal Lord Xian. It was a book about achieving immortality and ascending to the heavens. I even found the notes of the immortal and Qixing, the guardian of the Zhou dynasty, and repaired this scripture to 4 volumes. I read the notes of the predecessors and found out about the taboo of this scripture. This book is a book that connects to the netherworld and the gods, a book that investigates life and death. Yanluo is afraid of it, and all ghosts and gods are jealous of it. Therefore, those who cultivate this scripture will be cursed by the ghosts and gods, and will be harmed by the netherworld. Those who read this book will be harmed by the jealousy of the ghosts and gods. Hearing what the Qin man said, the people of this time still firmly believed in the theory of ghosts and deities. There were people who were shocked and distanced themselves. Many people immediately turned and distanced themselves, not daring to provoke him. However, the old Qin man did not seem to care about the people leaving. He took out the 7 chapters of Lord Xian from his bosom. That book seemed to have a strange power, causing everyone who saw it to be gradually entranced. Their eyes were all sucked in by that black cover. When the 7-colored strange bird on his shoulder saw the scripture with the black cover, it immediately squawked and flapped its wings. The unpleasant strange sound was like an awl, piercing into the heads of the onlookers, waking them up suddenly. Noticing this strange situation, more and more people fled in panic. But Qi Lei stared at the black cover of the Lord of Xian's 7 chapters mystic scripture. It was a mass of inky black scripture. The surface of the cover looked slippery, just like human skin. It seemed to be wriggling with warmth. There was a smudge of graffiti on the cover. The graffiti was composed of black and white outlines, like 2 yin and yang fish chasing each other. However, on the roughly regular outlines, countless black and white shadows twisted like tentacles, giving people a bone-numbing feeling. Qi Li stared at the scripture and roared in his heart, "It's true! It's actually real!" The 7 treasures golden pagoda in his sea of consciousness, the 7-layered banner that enshrined the Dharma treasure, had countless scriptures flowing on it. A pagoda with a dragon and an elephant appeared. Its brilliance increased greatly, firmly suppressing the indescribable psyche power that was invading and infecting. The banner in the 7 treasures golden pagoda flickered and produced countless Sanskrit chants, slowly purifying the psyche power that had transformed into monsters, turning them into pure psyche power of Qi Lei. Qi Lei deeply hid the trace of greed in his eyes and suddenly said coldly, "Qin person, this thing of yours has such a big disaster. Who would want to buy it? I think you don't want to sell it. You just want to find someone to be your scapegoat, to bear this disaster for you." The old Qin person only smiled and didn't answer his question. Instead, he said, the first chapter of this treasured scripture is called Universe. Universe is the Tao. It records the mysteries of life and death, the great secret of the netherworld returning to Yang. It discusses the existence of Tao, the life and death of things. During the time of Yellow Emperor, he discussed the spells and spells of the ancient immortals. Qi Song Zi, Guang Qingzi, 1, Zi Ju Tianxian Nu, and the others. Although most of them have been lost, Guang Qingzi and Qi Song Zi's Tao techniques, Ju Tianxian Nu's art of war, commanding demonic beasts, subduing heavenly demons, witchcraft, ghosts, and deities have been lost. However, there are still the secret spells of Yellow Emperor and Qi Bo, including the resurrection spell, and the supreme secret of immortality. The resurrection of the dead, immortality. Qi Lei was shocked. His face was full of disbelief. Not only that, the guardian of the Zhou dynasty in the past, Lao Dan, once tasted this scripture and comprehended a celestial medicine secret spell. When consumed and recited the spell, one can enter the realm of space and see the Tao. This medicine is also included in this scripture, the Qin person said shamelessly. The strange bird whispered, "Aren't you afraid that Lao Jun will blame you for slandering us like this?" The Qin person that Chun Ong transformed into smiled and answered softly, "Bodhisattva doesn't know the inside story, so I don't blame you. When did I ever lie? When I preached Tao with Lao Dan and Ishi, we talked about many secrets. Ishi obtained them and recorded them in the true scripture of literature. This scripture recorded many words of the Lord of Xian's 7 chapters, secret scripture. Lord of Xian means secret Lord of Xian. Laozi. Lord of Xian means the collaboration between the Lord of Secrets and Laozi. Both the witness and the material evidence are here. How can you accuse me of being innocent? The Lord of Mahasvara was speechless, as if he was choked by Chanong. He thought to himself, this Lord of immeasurable heavenly Lord is full of nonsense, but it's hard to expose him. This is a skill. That Guangqingzi was transformed from Lao Jun, who descended to the mortal world during the Yellow Emperor's era. When the two of them were discussing Tao, they talked about many secrets during the Yellow Emperor's era, so it's possible. However, this book must be written by the Lord of immeasurable heavenly Lord. He recorded the Tao discussion between Lao Jun and Guangqingzi, and it's unknown how many harmful truths were mixed in. He even said that it was a collaboration between the two of them. When Lao Jun discussed Tao, he guided us patiently and explained the profound in simple terms. Why would he write such a Tao book full of absurd words? The crowd had heard of many strange things, and those who were able to survive until now were all bold and greedy people. When they heard the explanation from the Qin man that Chen Ong had transformed into, their faces turned red and their greed blazed. If it wasn't for the Qin man that Chen Ong had transformed into, there would probably be people who wanted to snatch the book from him. Someone immediately asked, Qin man, you've been talking for a long time. What do you want in exchange for the treasure? I'll give you 1,000 pounds of copper, 3 buckets of pearls, and 50 gold to buy this book of yours. Chen Ong said, this treasure of mine doesn't sell for a high price, only for fate. Also, I don't need money. I just want something from you. Qi Lei had already made up his mind to snatch the book. His eyes flashed and he asked sternly, what do you want from us? Chen Ong chuckled and said, everyone, don't worry. I don't want her soul, lifespan, good karma, good luck, limbs, emotions. I only want your life. Preposterous. Hearing this, everyone was furious. Someone immediately said, who is willing to sell their life to you? This life is not your fate. Chen Ong laughed and said, this life is fate. It's the lifespan of the Yang recorded in the netherworld. It's the retribution for your previous life's good and evil deeds. It's also called fate. What I want is a life of impermanence. Anyone who is fated with this book will not have a constant fate. Everything is impermanent. Everything is impermanent, and your fate will no longer be within the 3 worlds and 5 elements. From now on, it will be difficult to stay in the world of mortals, and your fate will be like a lone star. Everyone half understood, but Qi Lei was the first to understand. He rushed to ask, seller, you're saying that all living beings in this world have their own fate, that everything is predestined? Chenong nodded and said, of course. Life and death, fortune and disaster, it's all in the netherworld, it's all predestined. He took a deep look at Qi Lei and suddenly smiled. Your fate is quite strange. You were originally a king's seed, but— Shut up! Qi Lei hurriedly interrupted. His eyes were red, and he said fiercely, I don't believe in ghost fate. Even if there is a fate, it's in my own hands. A few days ago, I heard a saying, my fate is in my own hands, not in the hands of the heavens. Then he snatched the book from Chin Eng's hand and sneered, if you want my life, then come and take it yourself. Chapter 912. Seeing Qi Lei leave in a hurry, 1 or 2 of the onlookers had a fierce glint in their eyes. They quietly retreated from the crowd and silently chased after Wang Qi Lei. Soon, they disappeared from Chen Eng's sight. Although they were careful, it wasn't as if they weren't noticed by others. After the 2 of them chased after them, it caused a small commotion in the crowd. The nobles who had bid earlier gave a few instructions to the guards beside them. Not long after, more people left. Seeing this, the old Qin man Qin Ong had transformed into quickly said, "Guests, don't worry. This scripture is only the first of the 3 great treasures I want to sell. There are still 2 treasures that haven't shown up yet. I also want to find a fated person." A noble's eyes flashed. He suddenly shouted, "You Qin man, your words are so unreasonable. What do you mean by fated person? Since you are selling treasures in our Yichu country, do you think we, the nobles of the Yichu country, can't buy your treasures? How can the slaves and lowly people in this city be worthy of these treasures? How can those riffraff outsiders take away the treasures from my Yichu country? If you don't give me an explanation, do you really think that the nobles of the Yichu country are easy to bully?" Qin looked at him and asked with a smile, "Oh, why did this nobleman mention it? Could it be that the nobles of Quangao tribe are not worthy of my treasures?" The noble's eyes darkened. He coldly snorted, "When did I say such things? You Qin man, don't slander me." Qin Ong calmly said, "That fated person just now is the 6th son of the Yichu king, Prince Qilei. I see that you don't seem to be convinced that he has the fate to obtain the scripture. Is it because his status is low and he is not worthy of my scripture?" The noble who asked the question happened to be from the Yichu royal family. Hearing Chen Ang's question, how could he dare to admit that he had offended his backer like this? Although he had heard about Prince Qilei's loss of power, those local nobles were not afraid of a fallen prince. In fact, those local nobles with power were not even afraid of the Yichu king. However, he was just a palace nobleman in the capital. He did not dare to do such a thing that would be a laughing stock. He hurriedly retorted, "The prince's bloodline is noble, so he is naturally worthy of that treasure." Qin Ong then said indifferently, "Could it be that he is some shady character who would take away the treasure from Yichu country?" The nobleman was sweating profusely as he said sternly, "Of course the prince is not a shady person. Just tell me what the treasure is. Why are you asking so many questions?" Qin Ong was reprimanded by him, but he wasn't angry. He only smiled and said, "The 2nd treasure is called karmic retribution. It was created with a single thought from the gods and Buddhas in heaven. As the saying goes, good and evil are rewarded. One day, in the midst of a heavy rain, a slave saw that an ant nest was about to collapse. In a moment of goodwill, he built a bamboo bridge to save it. In his next life, he was reincarnated as a prince of a Western country. He ascended the throne at the age of 20 and died at the age of 160. This is the reason why a single benevolent thought can save thousands of lives." Qin Ong was eloquent with Lianhua. He talked about a few strange stories that happened in the jurisdiction of the western Mount Lingshan. In the market, the poor commoners, slaves, and poor people gradually gathered around. Even some of the older noblemen were fascinated by the story. Qin Ong even specially told the story of 2 people with high positions of power who committed atrocities. In their old age, they were enlightened and were rewarded with good deeds. He also specially emphasized that the slaves and poor people who were once bullied by them were reincarnated as their relatives in the next life and tormented them. These were all taken from the karma of the hundreds of countries in India under the jurisdiction of the western Mount Lingshan. However, those young and strong noblemen became impatient. After tolerating him for a while, they couldn't help but interrupt. "Qin people, we've heard these words of yours long ago. A few days ago, a pair of people from the Central Plains said it once in the palace. It was even better than what you said. After that, there was an old man from the West who found people in the city to spread these words every day. We've long been tired of listening to it. What's the use of the 2nd treasure? Don't keep us in suspense." Qin Ong laughed and said, "This 2nd treasure is seen by the deities and Buddhas. Those who accumulate good deeds in this life can only receive good deeds in the next life. This way, all living beings don't know karma and wantonly do evil. They suffer after death and suffer in the next life. It's a pity that they don't get punished. If they cultivate virtue and accumulate good deeds, they can immediately see karma. I'm sure all living beings in this world will be devout to Buddha and actively cultivate virtue and do good deeds. Only then can the deities and Buddhas have the heart to deliver all living beings from suffering. Everywhere in this world will be a pure land. All of you will be able to escape the sea of suffering and not have to go to the land of ultimate bliss. Hearing his words, the slaves and poor people couldn't help but be shocked. Even the few old noblemen were a little shocked. They asked absent-mindedly, "Qin people, is the karma in this life as magical as you said?" Of course. Chen On didn't care about the restlessness of the strange bird on his shoulder as he indifferently said, "This treasure can give you karma in your future life. It can extend your life and make everything go according to your wishes. As long as you have enough karma, there's nothing you can't do." Chen On looked at the bewildered expressions of those people and said with a smile, "This treasure doesn't only belong to one person. As long as you carry out the wishes of the deities and Buddhas, it's fate. It's a treasure that everyone has. If you're unlucky, you might as well chant after me. Namo Bo Sun, Doomsday Buddha." As his voice fell, an old war-hound's noble who couldn't even walk impatiently clasped his hands together and said, "Namo Bo Sun, Doomsday Buddha." As if it was an illusion, an infinitely dignified voice sounded in the old noble's mind. "In the doomsday there is my Buddha to deliver all living beings. Karma in this life, ma, and I, pad, me, hum. Do you want to activate the karma system?" "What's that sound?" That old noble was instantly shocked as he cried out in shock, "Do you want to activate the karma system?" The voice didn't have any intention of explaining and repeated it coldly. The old noble from the righteous canal was the uncle of the Penlu tribe's chief. His name was Izio, and he had an extremely high prestige in the tribe. If it wasn't for that, he wouldn't have lived to this age. Even so, he felt that his time was coming to an end. Even the shamans in the tribe couldn't prolong his life. The great terror between life and death made him believe in ghosts and gods day by day. He was one of the pillars that supported the shamans and the nobles. Izio was slightly agitated and said with a slightly trembling voice, "It's activate!" The people around them couldn't hear the voice. Seeing Izio lose his composure, they were bewildered. However, Izio's eyes suddenly widened and his body trembled like a sieve. The nobles from the righteous canal shouted angrily, "What is this Qin man plotting to harm boss?" Don't. Izio waved his trembling hand to stop the impulsive nobles. He stared at the void in front of him and almost couldn't bear to move his eyes away. He panted heavily as if he was about to pass out. He said to his subordinates, "I'm fine. Don't make things difficult for this gentleman Qin." Izio looked at the 4 options on the light screen in front of him: karma, sin, blessing, and karma. Merit was 2 small golden words followed by the number 238. Sin was 2 blood-red words followed by the number 157,286. Although Izio had never learned that strange language before, it didn't stop him from easily understanding the meaning of the words. He clicked on one of the options with his mind unskillfully. Out of his instinctive fear of the blood-red karma, he clicked on the blessing option first. He saw a lifespan, in merit, official position, fortune, treasure, cultivation, attribute, wish, and other major options. There were many smaller options under the major options. For example, under in merit, there were karmic luck, reincarnation Tao, hell tribulation, reincarnation selection, and so on. Under luck, there were love luck, fortune luck, time luck, offspring luck, and so on. However, Izio almost couldn't wait to click on the lifespan option. The lifespan option was surprisingly simple. There was only one option: 1 year of lifespan, 100 merit points. Without any hesitation, Zik chose the option of increasing his lifespan by 1 year. His merit points instantly disappeared by 100, leaving only 138. Almost at the moment the merit points jumped, Ezek felt a warm current spreading to his limbs and bones. Vaguely, the feeling of his life hanging by a thread slowly faded. Izio opened his eyes and saw everyone looking at him in shock. He stretched out his hands and saw that there was an additional trace of flesh on his bony, withered hands. A surge of energy surged out from his body that was at the end of its tether. The slave next to him said in a trembling voice, My lord, your hair." Izio grabbed a handful of hair. It was no longer withered white, but silver with a hint of light. What he couldn't see was that the roots of his hair had miraculously turned black. Izio laughed like a madman and shouted, "Yang Shou! It can really increase lifespan." After saying that, his body trembled. Ignoring the nobles who were asking him anxiously, he clicked on the lifespan option again. However, this time the option for 1 year of lifespan was grayed out, and the number 1000 behind it seemed to be mocking him. Izio lunged at Chun Ong crazily and screamed, "Where's my lifespan? Where's my merit points? Why did it suddenly increase? Why?" The old Qin man looked at him with a strange expression and sneered. "Do you think you can live forever just because you have 100 merit points a year? Everyone has a limit, and every year after that limit, the merit points you need will increase tenfold. Otherwise, do you want to live until the end of time? 8 to 10 years is more than enough. Besides, karma doesn't only come with good karma. Your merit points and sins in this life will also be calculated. Do you think it's a free gift from the gods?" As soon as he said that, a blood-red karma flashed on the light screen in front of Izio. Izio clicked on it and saw that there was only one option. First tribulation. Tribulation of swords and soldiers, 100 sins. There was only a countdown timer, 014. 14, and the number was still getting smaller. There was a redemption, 200 merit points, option at the back, but it was grayed out. Izio instinctively felt that something was wrong. He looked at his 157,286 sins, and his body trembled. He asked with a dry voice, "Gentleman Qin, what is the meaning of this?" Chun Ong glanced at him and chuckled. "Since you can enjoy the blessings of your next life in this world, the sins that you have to repay after your death will naturally have to be repaid in this world as well. However, Bo Sun's doomsday, Dharmakaya Buddha Lord, is merciful and has granted you guys a chance to repent and repent for your past mistakes. Therefore, you will have to repay your sins in stages, with each stage being a tribulation." "What kind of tribulation is that?" Izio answered with a trembling voice. "I'm suffering the tribulation of swords and soldiers." As I expected, the first tribulation is usually the tribulation of 100 sins. The karma is the lightest, and it doesn't include the tribulation of swords and soldiers, 5 elements, tongue, right and wrong. You will have to face the tribulation after half an hour. If you are careful, it won't be hard. However, after each tribulation, there will be another one. The next tribulation will be the tribulation of 200 sins. When that time comes, even the tribulation of swords and soldiers will be in danger of dying. After that, there will be the tribulation of lightning, tribulation of wind, tribulation of fate, and other intermediate tribulations. Even if you are lucky enough to survive those intermediate tribulations, when the tribulation of 10,000 sins arrives, you will have to face the tribulation of hell, Rakshasa, Asura, heavenly tribulation, and calamity tribulation. By then, your soul will be in agony, and you will be begging for death. When Izio heard that his soul almost left his body, he grabbed onto Chunang's thigh and said, "Gentlemen, save me." Seeing his pitiful state, the other nobles retreated in fear. However, Chunang sneered at them. "Do you think you can escape? There is still a chance for him to pay for his sins. If you wait until you are dead, is the 18 levels of hell any better than the tribulation of heaven? The tribulation of hell is the tribulation of heaven. Even if you are captured by the emissaries of hell, you will be dragged into hell together with your body. If you don't repent, then that will be your outcome after death. Looking at the paralyzed Izio on the ground, Chun Ong said indifferently, you should avoid the tribulation in half an hour first. The more powerful the tribulation is, the longer it will take for the tribulation to happen. Based on my calculations, if you avoid this tribulation, you will probably have 12 hours to accumulate merit points, pay for your sins, and avert the tribulation. But you have to think it through. Merit points have to be doubled to pay for sins. If you use the same amount of merit points, or even less, to exchange for good karma, you might be able to survive the tribulation. You have to think carefully about the secret behind it. Izio did not have the time to think. After receiving Chun Ang's reminder, he quickly spent 100 merit points to buy half an hour's time and saw the countdown of the tribulation of swords and soldiers hit 0. Izio was so nervous that his palms were sweating, but nothing happened after a few breaths. One of the nobles beside him laughed. Izio, you're really as timid as a mouse. Halfway through his sentence, a spear flew at him like a bolt of lightning. Fortunately, Izio slipped and dodged the fatal spear. The spear only grazed his shoulder, but the person who laughed at him had the spear pierced through his mouth. The tip of the spear came out from the back of his head. It was obvious that he was dead. A sneer could be heard from where the spear came from. I'll return what you gave me to me in its original form. It was the voice of Chi Lei who had just escaped. Chapter 9:13. Chun Ong was unusually calm when he looked at the excited Ijua, who seemed to be holding on to a life-saving straw. Why don't you look at your merit points and sins? Only then did Ezekiel react. He hurriedly opened his merit retribution system, and under the blood-red sin value was displayed as 157,243. Compared to the original value of 157,286, it was only 43 points lower. This fact was like a heavy hand that was tugging at Ezekiel's heart. Why is this happening? Ijua was at a loss. Gentleman Chin, why did my sins only decrease by 43 points after the first tribulation? Can't I pay for my sins after passing the tribulation? Or do I have to use merit points to get rid of the karma? Chun Ong pointed at the noble's body that was nailed to the ground and smiled. Did you forget about this person? If it wasn't for your increased luck, the spear would have pierced your body, and this person wouldn't have died on the spot, right? This is your sin. This is outrageous. Ijua was so angry that he was trembling. This person died in the hands of 6th Prince Chi Lei. What does it have to do with me? Why do you have to increase my sins? Chun Ong was unperturbed as he said indifferently, this person can be considered to have blocked a disaster for you, so he should pay the price. The heavens have eyes and are the fairest. They only increased your sins by 43 points, which is already considered generous. This person's sins are not small, and his fate is coming to an end. That's why the heavens used you and 6th Prince to send him to his death. Besides, this might not be a losing deal, Chun Ong said. Why don't you look at the merit points again? Ijua subconsciously looked at the merit points in his system. The eye-catching golden merit points showed a shocking number of 343. Ijua had accumulated more than 70 years of merit points, and he only had 238 merit points. It was obvious that Ijua was a bad person. After using 100 merit points to increase his lifespan by a year and another 100 to increase his luck, he should only have 38 points left. But now his merit points were more than 300 points. How could Ijili not be shocked? Chun Ong looked as if he had seen through his thoughts and leisurely said, It seems that the sin of that bastard is indeed not light. He actually allowed you to obtain so many benefits. Unfortunately, you are only an inducement to his retribution. The 6th Prince, who personally acted, must have gained even more. Unfortunately, he left too quickly and didn't receive the treasure. Iziro licked his lips as if he had not had enough. Suddenly, he summoned one of his guards and asked, Tulu, are you loyal to me? Are you willing to prove your loyalty? The dark and skinny guard immediately knelt down upon hearing this and vowed solemnly, "This servant's loyalty to master can be witnessed by the gods, and I swear that I will not waver even in death." "All right then." Izairo's eyes glinted. He raised his hand and pulled out a hairpin that glowed with a faint blue light from his hair. As he helped Tulu up, he stabbed the hairpin into the right side of Tulu's neck. When everything happened, Izairo took a few steps back at lightning speed. He was so agile that he did not look like an old man in his 70s at all. "Then you will definitely not refuse to use your life to prove your loyalty," Izairo said calmly. Tulu's eyes widened in disbelief. After struggling for 2 breaths of time, he collapsed to the ground, his face livid, and breathed his last. Izairo wiped his hands with a handkerchief and inserted the bloody hairpin back into his hair. Only then did he have the time to look at the merit retribution system. However, after a few glances, he raised his head angrily and said, "Why did my merit points only increase by 200 points and my sin increased by 150 points? I didn't even kill him with my own hands, but I still have more than this. Also, I can guarantee that Tulu is an unforgivable person. I've never seen anyone crueler, more violent, and more vicious than him. Among all my subordinates, he should be the one with the heaviest sin, far more than this dead man." Izairo pointed at the unlucky noble who was pierced through by the bone spear. Chin Ong said indifferently, "You seem to have some misunderstanding about merit and sin. Old benefactor, is there a sin in killing? Of course there is. Killing a good person is a sin. But killing an evil person doesn't necessarily mean that there is no sin. You are guilty of stepping on an ant or pinching a bug to death. Let me tell you, there was a naughty child who killed a nest of ants with his pea, and he was sent to the 18th level of hell, because killing is the first sin. Killing, stealing, adultery, lying, and drinking are the 5 evils. Those who commit these 5 evils will be burned 5 times and tortured 3 times. Chin Ong told him a few stories. They were all about women who gossiped about others behind their backs. They were sent to the hell of having their tongues pulled out, and those who instigated widows to remarry were sent to the hell of scissors. Those who killed chickens, ducks, and dogs were sent to the hell of a mountain of blades, while those who disobeyed their parents were sent to the hell of a blood lake, and so on. In the 18 levels of hell, all of them had to suffer terrible torture because of some trivial matters. It made people puzzled. Was this hell a place to punish evil people and pay for their karma? Or was it a place where gods, Buddhas, and bodhisattvas took pleasure in torturing all living beings? According to this hell, the torture of evil people in the human world was far less terrifying than the torture of bodhisattvas and Buddhas. Not to mention Izairo, even the innocent commoners and poor slaves shivered when they heard this. In the nomadic culture of the Itsu kingdom, not to mention widows remarrying, even if one's own father or brother died, one had to consider whether one could still use the stepmother or sister-in-law. The Itsu kingdom could not waste resources, and people like burying the dead and keeping their chastity. Moreover, that old man could no longer work. His children were only willing to give him a piece of sheepskin before chasing him out. What's more, he sowed discord and slaughtered livestock. As a nomad, asking him not to slaughter animals was a bit too difficult for him. If that was the case, everyone here, and even everyone in the Itsu kingdom, could not avoid the 18 levels of hell. At first, the poor commoners still had the thought of enjoying a good life in the afterlife. But when they heard this, they even wanted their souls to fly away. From Chen Ang's words, the Tendon suspending prison, Yuang prison, and Fire Pit prison were all crimes committed in their lifetime and were punished after death. The Buddha of Spirited Mountain was narrow-minded. The Bodhisattva of Western Paradise was sadistic and set up prisons indiscriminately. He was violent and crazy, far more than King Zhou of Shang. The Idu prison, the tongue-pulling prison, and the skinning prison were all because of disloyalty and filial piety, and the Buddha's mouth and the snake's heart fell into this door. Those who contradicted their parents were skinned, and did not starve in peace. Those who imitated the arm of a praying mantis had their tendons pulled out. Those who refused to be blindly loyal and accepted death, and were tortured in every way after death. The grinding horse prison, the smashing horse prison, and the bursting cart prison were all unjust and deceitful, and slandered others with sweet words. Just because of the right and wrong of the tongue, they had to use a mill to grind and a cart to crush their bones and flesh into mud. The ice prison, the skinning prison, and the intestines pulling prison were all made to bully the stupid and cause disasters to themselves. But they tied the merchants and peddlers who were short of weight to an iceberg and tore their human skin apart. The 18 levels of hell were all man-eating grounds of the deities and bodhisattvas, and the little Yenluo imps used them to show off their might. Look at the Buddha. He only sat on the skeleton Lianhua, wearing a human skin kasaya, and said that he was kind. His hands held a metal mill, and he ate people's flesh, blood, and intestines. The 4 great bodhisattvas released Dingting, and they tore off large pieces of flesh. They sat on the green lion and white elephant, and they picked their teeth with human bones. They had 1,000 hands and 1,000 eyes like demons, and they looked at the 18 levels of hell for fun. The deities and deities of the 3 realms had changed their style. Every one of them looked solemn and dignified in front of people. But behind them, they had changed into the style of the evil god Cthulhu. This was not Chin Ang's empty words. Although he exaggerated in the netherworld, the 18 levels of hell were more brutal than this. The Yenluo magistrate also judged cases like this, and that Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva might have eaten people before. Dingting and Yenluo of the 10 palaces might have had a meal together. When the Monkey King went to the netherworld, he also saw the common people suffering. It was said that the netherworld rewards the good and punishes the evil. But how much evil could the common people do? But the officials and nobles of the various countries had the protection of the deities and Buddha, and even the king of hell had to give them some face. The big demon, who ate humans by nature, was even more unrestrained, and the netherworld could not do anything to him. In the future, when the Tangqin king went to the netherworld, there was still Judge Chui, who borrowed 20 years of his lifespan, and there were kind-hearted people who borrowed 10 treasuries of gold and silver to help him. As the saying went, the common people were like a furnace, and those with power and influence were protected by the deities and Buddha. It was the same in the heavens, the earth, and the netherworld, and within the 3 realms. Chapter 9:14. As a qualified mastermind and villain, how could he not research how to use the system to control a person? As early as when Chen Ong first transmigrated, when he obtained his first doctorate, he discovered from the general behavior of humans that the carbon-based upright apes on Earth always thought that their behavior and thinking patterns were the result of their own free will. They always thought that their social behavior might be controlled by the system, but their spirit must be free. The extreme manifestation of this kind of stupidity was the MLM personnel who endured the difficult conditions in a small rented house, attended classes every day, and played games. More commonly, there were religious believers who studied various scriptures, prayed every day, and did activities in religious places. If you added the numbers of the 2 together, you would be surprised to find that the number of upright apes who were controlled but still thought that their spirit was free and their faith was noble accounted for 70% of the entire planet. This made the extreme manifestation of stupidity not seem so stupid. After all, as a kind of social animal, human genetic instincts and social requirements all told themselves that conformity was the safest, and that it was the safest to be in a crowd. This was also a way to control them mentally. It told them that they were gregarious, and that they had to be gregarious. Those ignorant people would spontaneously mutate themselves and try to blend into the crowd. Therefore, whether it was MLM or missionary work, the basic requirement was a relatively closed, small society where the behavior was different and converged. For example, the closed-door lectures of MLM, the missionary sites and rituals of religion. The nature of brainwashing of the 2 was the contrast of characteristics. Therefore, if Chunong needed to create a new religion in modern society, then MLM personnel would undoubtedly be the focus of development. Generalizing this general psychological law, it was not difficult at all to make a person's behavior and psychology be controlled by the system and make them think that they were free, but they did not know that their every move was under the control of the mastermind behind the scenes, like a puppet on a string. To be precise, it was very easy. The merit retribution system that Chen Ong casually created was one of the models. Merit is merit and sin is sin. On the surface, Chen Ong could not be any more honest. He said bluntly, "You have a wrong understanding. You think that getting rid of those who have sinned is doing merit." Ezilia was surprised. "Is there something wrong?" "Of course not," Chen Ong said forcefully. "Let me ask you, if one of your subordinates was greedy for your money and committed a great crime, and your other subordinate killed him, would you be happy?" Ijikwa came to a sudden realization. A person who acts on his own. "Yes." Chin Ong smiled and said, "You will also be unhappy, and you will not feel that the subordinate who killed the person has done a meritorious deed. Rewards and punishments come from above, not from below. That sinful person will naturally receive retribution from the deities and Buddhas. This is the authority of the deities and Buddhas. How can karma be taken care of by you? How can you interfere in a great matter like circulating samsara and judging good and evil? Could it be that you still think you're innocent and meritorious?" Chinong mocked. "Then why would there be merit?" Jikwa was confused. Chun Ong laughed and said, "That was deities and Buddhas borrowing your hand to complete their retribution, to let him have his evil retribution. You see, his sins are grave, deities and Buddhas borrowing your hand to carry out the tribulation of human, to let him die under the tribulation of saber and weapon. You are part of the retribution. Therefore you should have good karma, just like the subordinate who killed the person. If he had asked for your permission and followed your orders to kill, he would naturally be meritorious. This is the difference between being ordered and not ordered. For example, if you kill a sinner for justice, you will naturally have to suffer in hell and be punished for your sin of killing. But if you follow the doctrine and kill those mentioned in the scriptures, such as coffee and the enemy of Buddha, you will naturally ascend to the pure land of heaven and gain great merit. Even though that sinner wasn't the enemy of the Buddha, you have the current world karma system with you. The evil person that you killed must have been Bo Sun. The Dharmakaya Buddha Lord had made use of your hands to send down the current world karma so that those evil people would receive their retribution. Look, shouldn't the merit of rewarding the good and punishing the evil in the world belong to Bo Sun? Jikwa understood immediately and said, "As for me, although I am guilty of killing, I can also receive a bit of merit from Bushuin because of his kindness. This merit is not because I killed a sinner, but because I followed the retribution and was saved by Bushuin's power of will. Apart from the sin of killing, he saved me a bit of merit." "You're quite perceptive." Chinong smiled. "You are guilty of killing, and Bushuin sent out the retribution to punish the sinners in the netherworld. It is a boundless merit. Bushuin used you to send out the retribution. So he lent you a bit of merit to redeem your karma. But you guys don't know the redemption from Bushuin. How sad. You will fall into hell sooner or later." Jikwa muttered. "What kind of perceptive is that? Don't tribal chiefs and shamans all do the same? I heard that the Chin people of the Eastlands have laws that kill and kill. Those who kill naturally have to be executed as well. Only by following the orders of the Chin king and executing people according to the law. Not only are they not guilty, they are also meritorious. Therefore, Bushuin, the Dharma limitless Buddha, is like the Chin king of the East lands. But the right of retribution is in the hands of Bushuin." Of course. Chen Eng's face turned solemn. Buddha Bushuin upholds justice for all. Naturally, only Buddha Bushuin can uphold justice. The justice that others uphold isn't justice because Buddha Bushuin says that whoever is righteous is righteous. If you want to do it before Bushuin, then you have to experience his iron fist of justice. The secret lies in the system. The maintenance of the system lies in violence. And violence is when the deities, Buddhas, demons try to go against the system. Chin Ong squeezed his right hand and crushed a nut. He placed the nut into his mouth and chewed carefully. Jikwa shuddered. Chin Ong ate the nut and continued, "If there is only violence and no system is established, then you are a demon and can't do justice." "So," Chin Ong asked, "Old benefactor, do you know what merit is?" Iziro said sincerely, Buddha Bushuin's merit of delivering all living beings from suffering and transcending all living beings is merit. He bowed his old head deeply to show his submission. Namo Bushuin, the Dharma limitless Buddha, Chin Ong chanted. Chapter 9:15. A thin figure dressed in linen took advantage of the darkening sky to sneak down Deer Terrace Pavilion. He followed the inconspicuous corners of Deer Terrace Pavilion's tall pavilion and carefully avoided the patrolling guards as he walked out of the palace. When he reached a place where the guards couldn't see him, he lifted his skirt and ran forward with his bare feet. In fact, it was a luxury for a slave to even run. There was no thick layer of humus like the deciduous forest, and there was no soft soil like the plains. In the royal palace's garden, it was filled with shrubs, protruding tree roots, and stones. If he ran a bit faster, he would hurt his feet. Needless to say, in order to prevent slaves and untouchables from sneaking into the garden, the king of Righteous Canal ordered people to scatter a lot of sharp gravel here. Anyway, the nobles and guards were wearing shoes made of felt, which were warm and comfortable. They could run freely on the gravel ground, catching up with slaves who could not run fast like the wind and chopping off their heads. But that figure did not seem to care about the stones that could hurt his feet. He staggered as he ran and found a hidden place. There was already a war-hound's man wearing a guard's uniform waiting there. When the guard saw that figure, he quickly came forward and said in a low voice, "Did you bring it out?" That thin slave bowed and revealed a fawning expression as he said, "I brought it." His Majesty ordered people to keep a tight watch on them. I had to bribe the guards on duty to get a few of them. They are all freshly picked and dried goods, not the inferior goods that were dropped on the ground and withered to fool you. Take it out for me to see." The guard berated. Seeing his hesitation, he became even more strict. The skinny slave had no choice but to take out the thing wrapped in white cloth from his bosom. It was a dark, golden, air-dried datura flower that had shrunk into a ball. It looked like scattered gold grains piled up together, emitting a fragrant aroma. The guard greedily moved in front of the datura flower and took a deep breath. The skinny slave looked distressed as he watched from the side. It was as if this bite had sucked away a millet's weight, but he did not dare to stop it. However, the guard knew the importance of this matter and quickly wrapped it up again. He weighed the dried datura flower in his hand and sternly said, "Why is there so little this time? It's not even half a caddy. If this datura flower is dried, it would weigh about 2 caddies. Don't tell me you only collected 120 datura flowers in the past few days? Tell me, did you hide it?" This servant wouldn't dare. That skinny little slave's legs softened when she heard it, said in terror. This servant will never dare to disobey the great shaman's orders. Just that His Majesty is very strict. Ordered the close guards to make a list of those datura flowers. Every single datura flower that blooms are all numbered. Just a few days ago, His Majesty executed a servant girl for stealing flowers. Now, all the datura flowers are under the control of the palace guards. We have to curry favor with them and bribe them to hide some. We don't dare to steal too much of each stalk. We only pick the ones that slip through the gaps between the fingers of the noble guards. That fake king is actually so scheming, the guard said in shock and anger. The matter of smuggling datura flowers from the palace was extremely important. It concerned the great shaman's high regard for him. If this line was tightened, then his future would not be optimistic in the eyes of the great shaman. How could he stand out then? The slave at the side said hatefully, "It's all that merchant's suggestion." He asked His Majesty for the right to monopolize all the datura flowers in Deer Terrace Pavilion and only allow him to sell them. His Majesty was rather shaken and is still considering. The guard sneered when he heard that. These people from the Central Plains will definitely not have an easy time after the great shaman takes the throne. After putting away the dried datura flowers wrapped in white cloth, the guard lowered his head and made a few turns, then went around the palace and went straight to a mansion in the city. After entering the mansion, he handed the things to a shaman and left. That shaman carefully carried the things to the outside of a main hall. Great Shaman Juyen looked at a sorcerer apprentice with a gloomy expression. He poured the dark gold, dried datura flowers in a white handkerchief into a golden bottle. The bottle was already half full. The datura flowers inside were like scattered gold, emitting an enchanting dark gold brilliance. Ju Yen held the golden bottle in his hand and looked at the grand shamans below, who were staring greedily at the golden bottle. He laughed angrily and said, "Are you all satisfied with just this bit of witch medicine?" He said sternly, "That fake king has thousands of times more datura witch medicine than this. Are we going to be satisfied with just picking up this bit that he left behind and fight over it like dogs?" Great Shaman Ju Yen reached in and grabbed a handful of scattered gold. He used a little force in his hand and crushed the withered datura flowers that had shrunk to the size of soybeans into powder. He brought it to his nose and took a deep breath. The dark gold fine powder was sucked into his nose. After a few breaths, Great Shaman Ju Yan's gaze changed. His murky and dim eyes suddenly brightened, as if a powerful thought had been injected into them. He felt that his telegnosis, which had been dulled by witchcraft, ghosts, darkness, and poison, had become sharp again. His dry and loose skin became sensitive, and his consciousness became clear and scattered. "It's really a magical medicine," Great Shaman Ju Yen exclaimed. "The ancestors' spirits can use this to communicate with us. It can help us listen and see the traces of the ghosts and gods that are everywhere. With their power, it can make our spiritual sense sharper and sink into the spiritual realm to come into contact with those great, immortal powers. We can see the spirits, the ghosts, and gods." Ju Yen sighed and said, "That's why you are so eager and greedy to get your hands on this kind of medicine. You want to concoct it into a medicine that can help you break through to the next level, please the gods, and increase your power. This kind of medicine, when used by wizards, can communicate with the ghosts and gods. When used by warriors, they will become stronger and braver. Even those slaves will become smarter when they work. It can increase our intelligence and make us more sensitive to the will of the ghosts and gods. It can even make warriors more agile and powerful, replenishing their energy and stamina. But this kind of natural treasure," Great Shaman Juyen said angrily, "it's actually in the hands of those idiots and trash from the Quan Gao family, in the hands of that fake king of Yi Chu clan. That fake king even used a stove to bake piles of spirit incense in one of the main halls of the royal palace, letting the fragrance of datura scent fill the entire hall. Together with those stupid, rotten nobles, they would have fun in the main hall, enjoying themselves to their heart's content. It's called the Meeting of Bliss. This helped Yi Chu king to win over many influential people." Another grand shaman added, "Many clans and nobles are no longer interested in their ancestors and the ghosts and gods. Some nobles who have been to the Meeting of Bliss told me that only by smelling the fragrance of the pure land of bliss and enjoying themselves to their heart's content would they be able to live their lives as nobles. Otherwise, what's the point of living like those slaves and lowly people? And the nobles who have smelled the mandala fragrance, the heavenly flower fragrance from the pure land of bliss, have no doubts about the pure land of bliss. Even the monk who claims that the spirited mountains, gods, and Buddhas created 3 pure lands that aren't inferior to the pure land of bliss can't convince anyone. Yesterday, he even claimed that his pure land of Amitabha and pure land of bliss also had the infinite Datura scent. Another grand shaman said, "Ha ha ha." His words caused a wave of sarcastic laughter in this secret chamber. Zhu Yan sneered and said, "You mean that liar who held a bottle and showed everyone his pure land of bliss? Do you think anyone would believe his nonsense?" As soon as Zhu Yan's voice fell, all the laughter stopped immediately. The grand shamans became silent. Zhu Yan laughed a few times and then snorted coldly. There are still many who believe in it. They don't believe in their ancestors and the ghosts and gods, but they believe in the nonsense of a barbarian from the Guifang West. He talked about the so-called reincarnation and the pure land of bliss in detail, even if these things were just copied by that barbarian a few days ago. Even if he said this today, he would slap his own mouth tomorrow and change his words. But there are still people who believe in him. They believe without a doubt. Maybe we can also fabricate our own pure land, a grand shaman said. He plucked up the courage to make this suggestion, expecting to receive some rebuttal from the grand sorcerers. But, surprisingly, none of the grand sorcerers spoke. So, after this silent encouragement, the secret chamber began to discuss in whispers how to adapt this saying. Zhu Yan let out a silent sigh. How could he not know that he was digging up his own foundation? But after consuming the datura, Zhu Yan believed deeply in the pure land of bliss where the smallpox grew. He also started to believe in the pure land of bliss, the endless bliss. If there was no pure land of bliss, how would there be such a strange flower like the datura? The aristocrats of Ichu country were shamans. They were all addicted to the unrestrained, carefree happiness after consuming the datura. Hence, they yearned for the pure land of bliss where this strange flower grew. Since the pure land of bliss existed, then after death, who would not want to enter the pure land of bliss and enjoy the endless bliss? This was the reason why the few grand shamans did not dare to obstruct the pure land of bliss. They did not dare to offend the Amitabha Buddha who opened up the pure land of bliss. They too had to die. In the ultimate picture of bliss, Chenong looked at the few souls that had just floated over. These were some of the old aristocrats of Ichu City. Every winter was the time when the old people passed through a critical period. Winter was the time when the vitality was restrained and the blood was dormant. Therefore, passing through the winter was like passing a test. After the winter, when the flowers bloomed and the vitality sprouted, most of the old people who were physically old and mentally weak could survive until the next winter. These aristocrats were the old people who could not survive. Thanks to the overflow of the datura in Ichu City, they all bid farewell to the world without pain. They had entered a real hell. Transfer these souls to world number 76 and prepare for the river Styx corruption experiment. Chen Ong smiled slightly, revealing a gentle smile that was comparable to the smile that medical students showed to rabbits and mice. It's just the beginning. There are too few experimental resources. Too few. When the Pure Land sect flourishes and everyone chants the name of Buddha and enters the pure land of bliss, my tens of thousands of experimental projects can be started. Chen Ong sighed and said, the quality of these souls that consume the datura is too poor. I can only use them for the river Styx corruption experiment to study the ecology of the soul after the corruption of the soul. Chapter 9:16. I've made it clear enough for the second treasure. Chin Ong said, everyone is fated with this treasure. If you want to fight for it, you only need to chant Namo Pasun Mo-Fa Wang Buddha. All merit and karmic retribution will be reaped by all of you. Yi Ji's expression flickered with uncertainty. For a moment, the spectators couldn't tell if this was a blessing or a curse. It was like a hot potato. Before they could make up their minds, Chin Ong said indifferently, the treasures of the first 2 sects already have owners. Now, there's only the last one left, and it's fated. This treasure is a spiritual mountain that is worshipped by dozens of countries in Paragodania province. It's called the Vajra Wheel Mountain, and there's a divine bird on the mountain called the Garuda. The Garuda has a golden body with colorful feathers and a good luck pearl on its head. Its cries are sorrowful, and it eats a poison dragon king and 500 poison dragons every day. Its body is covered in poisonous gas, and only the good luck pearl on its head can ward off the poison. Hunters often lure the Garuda to the Vajra Wheel Mountain and cut off its good luck pearl. It can ward off evil and make poison immune. It's considered a treasure. Hearing Chen Ang's explanation, everyone looked at the strange bird on Chen Ang's shoulder. It had a golden body with colorful feathers and a green tumor on its head. Wasn't this the Garuda that Chen Ang described? When Chen Ang saw how everyone was looking at him, he smiled faintly. Then he looked at the Garuda on his shoulder and said, "That's right. The third sex treasure is none other than this Garuda on my shoulder. The good luck pearl on its head has endless uses. Don't think that it's just a tumor right now. Once it's cut off, it can prolong one's life. If one doesn't want to use it, one can moisturize it with warm water. In just a few minutes, the flesh will turn into a jade-like pearl that can ward off all poisons." The Mahasthemaprapta Bodhisattva on Chen Ang's shoulder cursed in his heart. What a good, boundless heavenly lord. So he wanted to sell me out long ago. No wonder he told me to look better. The strange bird that the Mahasthemaprapta Bodhisattva had transformed into his naturally no ordinary creature. It was the Garuda bird that Chunong had mentioned. Because the bird was one of the 8 Dharma protectors of the Buddha, it naturally chose this form. It did not expect that Chunong would take the opportunity to betray it. The sarcoma on its head was indeed a wishful pearl, a Buddhist treasure. The Garuda bird fed on the poisonous dragons. When it was about to die, the dragons spat out their poison, and it could no longer eat it. So it flew up and down 7 times until it reached the peak of the Vajra wheel and died. Because it had fed on dragons for its entire life, its body had accumulated a lot of poisonous gas. And when it died, the poison caused it to self-immolate, leaving behind only a pure azure glazed heart. This heart was the Rui pearl. Ordinary people would not be able to imagine that the Garuda bird's heart was different from other birds. It was not in its chest, but on its head. It was like a sarcoma, pulsating constantly. It was hard to notice without careful observation. What made the Mahasthemaprapta Bodhisattva helpless was that the Garuda bird that it had transformed into was a Garuda king known as the Great Mighty Garuda King. Together with Avalokitesvara, Ksitigarbha, and Samantabhadra, there were the 4 incarnations of the Garuda king that led one of the 8 Dharma protectors, the Garuda tribe. Therefore, the Rui pearl on its head was even more extraordinary. It was a Buddhist treasure that could bring the dead back to life and increase one's magical power. It was loved by the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and deities. If that was the case, then so be it. As one of the few Bodhisattvas of Mount Lingshan, the Mahasthemaprapta Bodhisattva would not be stingy with a Rui pearl. However, the Garuda bird was a Buddhist bird. It was different from the other birds and beasts. It was born with a Buddhist nature and would not be tainted by lust. Therefore, in order to conceive offspring, it needed another Garuda bird as its mate to peck out the heart from the top of its head and place it into its belly. Only then could it give birth to a young bird. When the Garuda bird lost its heart, it found a mate to share its heart with. Within 7 days, a new heart grew. Garuda's body was poisoned, and after losing his mind for 7 days, he needed a mate to help him suppress it with his own Rui bead. At this time, the 2 divine birds were in danger of the poison acting up, so it was extremely difficult for these divine birds to give birth. Now, Chen Ang's words were filled with malicious intent when he mentioned how precious the pearl on the head of the Garuda king's head was. If the crown on his head was cut off and placed in water to condense into a Rui pearl, then it would be fine. If there really was a crazy person who believed the nonsense that the immeasurable heavenly venerable made up and swallowed the heart crown before his flesh and blood melted, the crown would turn into a young Garuda egg when it came into contact with his flesh and blood. Wasn't this the same as having a cheap son at most? Those who coveted the divine bird's blood and blood to prolong their lives were mostly old and ugly noblemen. If people knew that the Garuda king that he transformed from the Garuda king had a little bird with a filthy, greedy, and stupid old man, this would make the celestials, dragons, yakshas, and Granny Chien on Spirited Mountain laugh until the end of eternity. When the Garuda king thought of this terrifying possibility, it immediately flapped its wings and fled. Unexpectedly, just as it was about to flap its wings, Chin Ong grabbed it with one hand and said with a smile, "Bodhisattva, why are you running? It's not like I'm going to eat you. Didn't we agree to deliver all living beings from suffering together?" Chun Ong held the strange bird that was transformed from the Garuda king and shouted, "I'm selling the strange bird of the western regions, Garuda! I'm selling it cheap. I'm selling it cheap. The pearl on its head, it can prolong one's life and make one immortal." Under the urgent situation, the Garuda king could only escape from the Saraira and fly towards Spirited Mountain in a beam of light. Chun Ong seemed to have forgotten about the beam of light that went far away and only smiled mysteriously. The Spirited Mountain in the western heaven was infinitely beautiful. The great, thunderous temple was filled with auspicious clouds, and rainbow lights embraced the world. The common mystical ape presented fruits. The deer held flowers. The green swan danced. The colorful phoenix cried. The spirit turtle held longevity, and the crane caught Ganoderma. They enjoyed the Pure Land Nun Garden and enjoyed the Dragon Palace Dharma Realm. Flowers bloomed every day, and fruits ripened every now and then. They practiced tranquility and returned to nature, neither dying nor growing, neither increasing nor decreasing. Haze drifted in and out, neither cold nor heat intruded, and did not remember the year. On this day, the four bodhisattvas, Guanyin, Samantabhadra, Manjushri, and Ksitigarbha, were touring Bodhi Garden in the Pure Land Nun Garden and observing the situation of the three realms. Guanyin Bodhisattva said, "A few days ago, when that monkey was causing trouble, the immeasurable heavenly Lord threw a white chess piece, and it landed on Luajia Mountain. It turned into a chess piece island and suppressed my bottle. Now that the demon emperor equal to heaven has returned and the matter of the cloudy palace of the golden arches is settled, the immeasurable heavenly Lord is not letting me out." Manjushri smiled and said, "It was so noisy that day. The Buddha ordered the 18 arhats to bring 500 arhats to Nanjan State in the east. When they passed by Mount Zhongnan, they fell into the chess game between the immeasurable heavenly Lord and Lao Jun. We went to rescue them, but were beaten up by that bastard. The poor Mahasthamaprapta's bottle was almost knocked off, and even his hair was in a mess after he escaped. The immeasurable heavenly Lord trapped us for 500 years. If it wasn't for the revered one who rescued us from 500 years later, today would be the end of the Eastern Han dynasty." The four bodhisattvas laughed, and Ksitigarbha said, "I wonder where the Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva is? I can't see him today." Chapter 9:17. The four bodhisattvas talked about the major events that happened in the three realms during this period of time. Just as they were about to investigate the three realms, they saw a ray of 5-colored light entering the Spirited Mountain and landing in the great Lane Temple. Bodhisattva Guanyin saw it and said in surprise, Isn't that the Mahasthamaprapta's Sarira light? Why is he here instead of fighting the immeasurable heavenly Lord?" Just as the ray of light was about to land, it saw the boundless light above the four bodhisattvas in the sky above the lotus garden. It turned and landed on the four bodhisattvas. The ray of light turned into a glazed sarira, and the voice of the Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva could be heard. "When I was fighting the immeasurable heavenly Lord, I was ambushed by him. Please help me, brothers." Manjushri and Samantabhadra looked at each other. Guanyin Bodhisattva was the calmest and asked, "Fellow Taoist Mahasthamaprapta, there is no need to panic. Quickly tell us the truth." The Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva then explained how Chin Ong tricked him into transforming into the Garuda bird and imprisoned him. After understanding the whole story, Ksitigarbha said, "The immeasurable heavenly Lord's power is amazing, but he is not a good person. He likes to bully the weak and the strong. He is plotting against fellow Taoist Mahasthamaprapta to find him a son to create a troublesome karma." Manjushri said, "We must not let him plot against fellow Taoist Mahasthamaprapta." Guanyin pondered a little more and said, "The boundless heavenly Lord and the Taishang Laojun are the key figures in the Buddha's plan to establish the Mahayana sect in the next cataclysm. The Buddha made a bet with them to give up one of their incarnations and join the Buddha as the Lord of the pure land of ultimate bliss, Amitabha. Initially, Laojun agreed to transform into a Buddha and become the venerable Amitabha. However, he did not want the immeasurable heavenly Lord to descend together with him. Hence, he split the venerable Amitabha into two, the Buddha of infinite light, the Buddha of infinite longevity, and the Buddha of Amitabha. He brought a supreme devil realm with him. Not long ago, he made a 48 great vow to turn the devil realm into a pure land of bliss. There are countless heavenly devils, devils, secret devils, and other devils. There are billions of living beings within. This demonic realm is the primordial heavenly demon realm. It is the key to opening the pure land of ultimate bliss master. It is 100 times more suitable than the pure land of ultimate bliss master. It can be another spiritual mountain and the foundation of the sect. Compared to being plotted against by Mahasthamaprapta, this is more important. We must not disturb the world, Lord's master's plan. The 4 bodhisattvas looked left and right and looked at each other. They nodded and said, "We will definitely not ruin the great plan of the revered one of the world." "Then let's go and meet that immeasurable heavenly Lord," Guan Yin Bodhisattva said with a smile. After that, the 4 bodhisattva followed the relic of Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva to the lower realm of Yi-Chu country. They landed on the streets of Yi-Chu city. Bodhisattva transformed into a poor girl. Manjushri transformed into a white-browed old man. Ksitigarbha transformed into a black-faced man. And Samantabhadra transformed into an ascetic monk. In the market, Chinong was still hawking. 500 gold once. Just 500 gold, and this noble can take away this divine bird from the West. You can't buy health. You can't buy longevity. You can't buy supernatural powers. 500 gold, just 500 gold, and you want him to take away this divine bird Garuda? There is a rui bead on its head. Eat it, and you can live forever. Are you going to let it go just like that? This noble has made a bid. 800 gold pieces. 800 gold pieces for an 8-foot-tall red coral. This noble has doubled the price. It seems that there is still room for the price to rise. Even if you can't use it, can't your family and other nobles who are not here use it? Give away the divine bird, make friends with nobles, get promoted, and get rich. You can multiply your capital by a few times. 1,000 gold. This noble has made a bid of 1,000 gold. Chun Ong screamed, "Being rich is fated. Being rich is great. You can even hire the king of hell if you have money. You can do whatever you want." Bodhisattva of Bodhisattva of Bodhisattva was dressed in plain clothes. She was about 16 years old and had a slender figure. She bowed to Chinong and said, "I have a merciful heart. I am willing to redeem this divine bird and release it to heaven and earth." Chun Ang's expression changed immediately. He sneered, "How much is a gene of merciful heart?" Being merciful is a thought that illuminates the universe. My heart weighs 8 taels and 7 taels, but it can contain the universe and hold all sentient beings. I'm willing to exchange one heart for another. Exchange my heart for another heart. The poor girl bowed and said, "Being merciful has boundless merits. I'll exchange 10 million merits for one gene." Chinong snorted, I won't exchange. Being merciful is his character. Other people's gold is not worth my money. Even if I have boundless merits, it's not as good as having a full stomach. I've always taken from this life. Why do I have to ask about the next life? Samantabhadra of Bodhisattva of Bodhisattva of Bodhisattva of Bodhisattva also joined in the fun and said, "This item is very good. I'm willing to exchange a country's land for it." "Monk," Chin Ong said lightly, "you are poor and have nothing on you. Where does a country's land come from?" The noble who offered 1,000 gold also came back to his senses and said angrily, "Where did this beggar come from? How dare he make trouble here?" He then turned to Chinong and said, "You said that the highest bidder wins. You can't go back on your words. Why do you care about these people who bid randomly? If no one offers a higher price than me, you should drop the hammer." "This noble is right." Chinong turned his head and asked, "Monk, is your country's land worth 1,000 gold?" Samantabhadra Bodhisattva said, "My country's land has 36 cities and 290,000 people. It's priceless. If you get it, you can become a feudal lord." The noble sneered, "Where did this beggar come from to talk nonsense here? Where did you get the country's land to exchange for?" Samantabhadra Bodhisattva said, "I begged for alms. The king of the Dahuai kingdom is kind and generous. When he heard that I wanted to beg for some money in exchange for releasing this bird, he gave me a Kasaya's land." "A Kasaya's land?" The noble laughed and said, "He gave you a Kasaya's land and you claim to have a country? And where did the Dahuai kingdom come from? Where is your Kasaya's land?" Samantabhadra Bodhisattva took off the Kasaya and threw it to the side. The Kasaya fluttered and landed under a big pagoda tree, covering its roots. Samantabhadra Bodhisattva pointed there and said, "That's the Kasaya's land that the Dahuai kingdom gave me, a country that they gave me." The noble from the Ichu kingdom beside him said angrily, "This is the Ichu city of the Ichu kingdom. This land also belongs to the Ichu kingdom. Where did the Dahuai kingdom give you this piece of land? And even if this piece of land is yours, it's not worth 1,000 gold." Samantabhadra Bodhisattva put his palms together and picked up the Kasaya. He pointed his right hand down on the ground and raised his finger in front of everyone. He said, "This is the king of the Dahuai kingdom. He lived here for 39 generations before your Ichu kingdom was founded. So this land should belong to the Dahuai kingdom." Everyone saw that his hand was empty, but upon closer inspection, they saw that there was a big-bellied ant on Samantabhadra Bodhisattva's finger. It was an ant queen. Looking at the land covered by the Kasaya, there were countless black dots crawling around. They could even see the mouths of a few ant nests. Chapter 918. The nobleman flew into a rage and scolded. "Where did this arrogant person come from? What is he talking about? What ant people of the locust tree kingdom? What 36 cities? A country's land? He's talking nonsense and trying to cheat me of my treasures." He then said to his guards, "Chase him out of the city." Chin Ong stopped him with a smile. "Wait, let me ask him first." He asked Samantabhadra Bodhisattva, "Monk, let's not talk about whether the land of the locust tree kingdom is worth 1,000 gold coins. Let's talk about how the queen of the locust tree kingdom provided you with a country's land in exchange for my Garuda bird. Do you have the letter of credence and seal as proof? Otherwise, how can I believe you without proof?" Samantabhadra Bodhisattva smiled. "The people of the locust tree kingdom are willing to be the witness. Mister, please take a look." Samantabhadra Bodhisattva pointed to the ground. Many ants swarmed out of the ant nest and formed patterns on the ground. They looked like words. It was the letter of credence for borrowing the land and Samantabhadra Bodhisattva. Chin Ong squatted down and looked at it carefully before nodding. "That's what you said. If that's the case, the documents are complete and the procedures are proper. Monk, you can make a balance sheet to count the movable and immovable properties of the locust tree kingdom, as well as the debts and bad debts. Allow me to evaluate it carefully and then determine the total value," Chinong said seriously. At this moment, the aristocrat, who had been angered to the point of laughing by the two's preposterous actions, suddenly became infuriated. He suddenly snatched a water pouch from the waist of the bodyguard behind him and came to the big locust tree. He poured the liquor in the pouch down, drowning the ant nest. Countless ants died in the blink of an eye. Ha ha ha. The nobleman laughed. Where is your locust tree kingdom now? Disaster fell from the sky, and unfortunately the kingdom was destroyed. Chin Ong squatted down and looked at it carefully again before raising his head and saying, Monk, your mortgage was destroyed due to the invasion of foreign enemies. The kingdom was invaded by foreign enemies and was destroyed. It was a natural disaster. Therefore, the mortgage was invalid. Although the land of the kingdom still exists, the sovereignty is unclear. Forgive me for not being able to mortgage it. My sins, my sins. Samantabhadra Bodhisattva put his palms together. He couldn't bear to close his eyes and said, All sins are mine. He no longer paid attention to them and sat down under the big locust tree. He placed the queen ant under the tree and silently helped the people of the ant country to cross over. Chin Ong looked at the nobleman with pity and shouted proudly, Anyone else? Is there anyone who dares to bid against me? The Samantabhadra Bodhisattva chanted for a while, and the wine stains on the ground slowly evaporated. Not long after, the ground was completely dry. The drowned ants flicked their antennae and came back to life. The nobleman was still unaware of this, and was ready to catch the Garuda. At this moment, he was suddenly surrounded by a group of soldiers clad in black armor. There were hundreds of them. The nobleman was so frightened that he didn't dare to resist. He heard the general say, Honored guests, our queen invites you. They led the group forward for a while and saw a forest in front of them. After entering the forest, it suddenly widened. There was a huge mountain pass in front of them. After going over the mountain pass, they saw a big city in the mountain. The city was orderly, and there was an endless stream of people coming and going. They walked all the way to the palace. There were farmers, peddlers, taverns, and patrolling soldiers. However, the people in this country were quite strange. They had 2 fleshy horns on their foreheads and temples. The palace was extremely tall and magnificent. After they were brought here, they waited in the main hall. After a while, a woman taller than the average person came out from the back of the hall. Seeing that the people around her were very respectful, they guessed that she was the queen of this country. Other than a few people who were muddle-headed from the shock, the rest of them knew what was going on. The queen invited them to take a seat. She covered her mouth and laughed. Masters, you are right. This is the Dahuai country. She then turned to the nobleman from the righteous canal and shouted coldly, How can you be so evil? My country is in your country, and we have always minded our own business. We have never offended your country. Just because of a little gossip, you want to drown the people of my country. How evil! It makes my hair stand on end. If it wasn't for the Daxing holy monk who couldn't bear to see my country in trouble and lent a helping hand, wouldn't my people have died in vain? The nobleman was so scared that he couldn't speak. He couldn't refute. He heard the queen snorting coldly, You killed the people of my country. How can I forgive you? Take them to the court and execute them to pay for the lives of the people of the Dahuai country. The general of the ants immediately took them down and scolded. Call them those who died because of you. I will hammer and strangle you to death. The nobleman was terrified. Seeing the indifference in Chen Ang's eyes and Samantabhadra Bodhisattva's expression, he quickly begged, Holy monk, spare me, spare me! Samantabhadra Bodhisattva had no choice but to persuade her. My queen, killing is the first of the 10 evils. Even if this person deserves retribution, his anger was caused by me, which led to this great crime. I have said before that all sins are mine. This person has offended the law, and I am willing to atone for it with my body. The queen of the Dahuai country turned around and said, Master, you saved hundreds of thousands of people in my country. If it wasn't for you, we would be like dust. Even if you kill countless of us, who cares? Not to mention that we are going to kill and plunder the murderer. Since the Daxing holy monk can't bear to do it, I will spare him from death. However, he can be spared from death, but he can't escape punishment. He still has to be imprisoned for 3 days to comfort the people of the Dahuai country. Samantabhadra, Bodhisattva, and the queen talked for a while more before turning to Chenong and saying, Almsgiver, the queen of the Dahuai country is still willing to abide by the previous agreement and give me this country. I wonder if you are willing to make a deal? Chenong smiled and said, The monk has already imprisoned my client, so what can I do even if I am not willing? He looked around again and smiled. The monk's supernatural power of the Buddhist country in the palm and the world in the sleeve is really not bad. You can create a country in a mustard seed, and it is so real. You can enlighten the intelligence of an ant and make it shed its insect nature to become a living creature with spirit. This country is no less than the righteous canal country, and its value is immeasurable, far exceeding 1,000 gold pieces. Chun-Ong looked at Samantabhadra Bodhisattva with a faint smile and said, If the monk is still willing to make a deal, I am naturally willing to make a deal. Samantabhadra Bodhisattva smiled and said, This deal only involves the land of this country. There are countless living creatures in it, and there is no reason for them to give me anything, so they are free to come and go. I know. Chun-Ong handed the Garuda King to Samantabhadra. He looked at the queen of the ant country and said, Pitiful worm, you have nothing and are only molded by others. You were originally an ignorant ant, but because Samantabhadra Bodhisattva wanted to transform the land of a country to make a deal with me, you were enlightened with intelligence. You seem to have gained great benefits, but you don't know that all your character and cognition have been molded. Every word and action is based on the original self that Samantabhadra Bodhisattva has molded. Pitiful, pitiful. Chenong sighed and said, Since I have gotten your land, I will give you another choice. As soon as he finished, a crisp bell rang in the ears of the queen of the ant country. Ding! The immeasurable heavenly Lord has gifted you the insect tribe evolution system. Would you like to load and bind it? Detected that the host's original self has been molded, and the insect tribe's instinct is being loaded. In an instant, the queen of the ant country felt that she had recalled the time when she was still an ant. The genetic instinct and memory of hunting, reproduction, survival, and predation, the human nature that was molded was suddenly impacted. An even more instinctive impulse broke the human nature that was molded by Samantabhadra Bodhisattva. The compassionate human nature instilled by Samantabhadra Bodhisattva and the genetic insect tribe's instinct triggered by Chun-Ong mixed together and molded the personality of the queen of the great locust tree country. Yes. Insect tribe evolution system loading. Insect tribe evolution. Kill the heavens. Activating genetic technology. Bloodline template. Activating genetic technology. Biochemical technology tree. Loading insectoid civilization guide. Activating genetic modification technology. Do you want to load the genetic modification biochemical furnace using the reproductive system as material? Activate. Activating job system. Hive queen. First level of insect tribe technology inheritance unlocked. The queen of the great locust tree country in front of Chun-Ong suddenly exploded into a pile of flesh and blood. Countless ant people swarmed over from all directions and threw themselves into the fungal carpet made of flesh and blood. Samantabhadra Bodhisattva's expression suddenly changed, and the other bodhisattvas also sensed that something was wrong. Chapter 919. Samantabhadra Bodhisattva put his palms together and said solemnly, I'm afraid I have to give up this body to get rid of this karma. The great locust tree country suffered because it provided for me, and now it's being schemed against by the immeasurable heavenly Lord. I have to give up my life to repay the great locust tree country's good karma. I also have to suffer the insect bite to resolve the evil karma and restore peace. Brothers, I'm free. Samantabhadra put his palms together and said, All the sins are mine." Then he turned back to the great locust tree, Country's palace. At that moment, tens of thousands of ants had voluntarily thrown themselves into the flesh and blood fungus carpet that the queen had transformed into. They were all devoured, providing a large amount of carbon-based substances. There were still ants surging in from all directions, wanting to become one with the queen. A thick fungus carpet had already covered the entire palace. Only the place where Chin-ong was had a large empty circle. Samantabhadra, Bodhisattva, came to the entrance of the palace and saw the purplish-red ground. It was the fungus-like tissue formed by the flesh and blood fungus. He could only sigh and walk into the fungus carpet. The queen of the Zerg had chosen the occupation of the queen nest. She controlled her own people to become one with her. While she was cleansing the remaining influence from Samantabhadra's enlightenment, she raised her body to become one with the Zerg, creating the collective consciousness of the Zerg. Notifications from the Zerg evolution system kept ringing in her ears. Evolution points +10, evolution points +15. Every time an ant melted in the fungus carpet, it would provide her with a bit of evolution point. In the interface before her, the queen of the great locust tree skillfully opened the genetic technology, biochemical technology tree. She first spent 10 evolution points on a brain tissue memory enzyme protein, then on a neuron cell mutation, electronic pulse, as well as nervous system optimization and glial cell mutation, cell repair. She spent 1,000 evolution points to open the first level of the neuron and glial mutation skill tree. After choosing the route of the nerve axon's electrical impulse, the first technology system of the central nervous biochemical technology finally appeared: protein neurocomputer technology. The nervous system of the queen's entire body began to undergo extremely complicated changes. The complicated central nervous system that spread to all the nervous system tissues in the fungus carpet created a heterogeneous network of nerves, completing the basic structure of the neurocomputer. Then, the algorithm of consciousness was changed, and the algorithm of personality consciousness carried by Samantabhadra was modified. The gene cell consciousness carried by Chin-ong completely changed along with the queen's nervous system. Everything that was based on this began the most fundamental change in the structure and template of the brain's consciousness from the very bottom. But at this time, the queen was still a kind of insectoid that had just evolved to become sentient like humans, and the development of civilization and biochemical technology was relatively low. Samantabhadra, Bodhisattva, stepped into the fungal carpet with the awareness of abandoning his body. A large amount of fungal tissues immediately wrapped around his body below his thighs like mucus. Samantabhadra Bodhisattva could feel countless tiny tentacles peeling off his flesh, analyzing his genetic information and cellular consciousness. They were absorbing power from his body. As if he was wading through water, he walked towards the center of the palace, where Chin-ong was. Flesh and blood were stripped from his body, and soon his lower limbs revealed white bones and yellow tendons. Even though he had lost the ability to move biologically, Samantabhadra was still slowly moving forward. The fungal tissue that had gathered had already drowned his chest and was about to envelop him. His jade-like, glowing bones were also being eroded by the queen. Plus 10,000 plus 6,000 plus 14,000 the moment Samantabhadra Bodhisattva's flesh and blood melted. The queen's consciousness began to click on the second layer of the neural computer technology tree. Soon, she clicked on the next layer, the neural quantum group computing system, followed by other genetic technologies. Insectoid war technology tree, cloning, hatchery, biological nuclear fusion reaction, biological heavy element fission reaction, DNA analysis, bioelectric technology, brain technology, genetic modification technology, bioplasma technology, high-energy cells, biological energy technology, biological warship, cell armament technology tree, organelle mutation, mitochondrial aspirability system, chloroplast aspirability system, chromosome aspirability system, silicon-based biotechnology tree, silicon-based biochemical modulation, demon vitality technology tree, demonic energy synthesis, demonic energy mutation, protector psychokinesis technology tree, consciousness control, telepathy, mental ability development. The queen, who had obtained a large number of evolution points, began to precisely click on the genetic technology and other subsystems in the system according to her own analysis and design based on her consciousness that was already semi-computerized. She clicked on the genetic technology and other subsystems in the system and chose the evolution trend to form her own system. Every moment, every second, she was rapidly becoming stronger. Her previous self and her next self were two completely different levels of evolution. Chin-Ong watched as Samantabhadra slowly walked up to him. Now, apart from her head, which was still mostly intact, everything below her chest had turned into white bones. Everything below her waist, even the white bones, had been digested. After the celestial venerable lured her into becoming a demon, every breath she took had endless evil consequences. It was extremely terrifying. Samantabhadra Bodhisattva sighed and said, "It's a pity that she was originally a good seed, but the celestial venerable lured the root of evil, causing her to fall into Avicii and become another ferocious demon in the three realms. Does the celestial venerable's benevolent heart hurt by such actions? Of course not." Chin-Ong smiled and said, "This is her free will." Bodhisattva molded her personality and distorted herself from an ant to a human. How twisted is this process? Forcefully binding her heart, she is like a creation of Bodhisattva, going against the natural nature of living beings. I enlightened her instincts and allowed her to choose freely again. This is because I respect life and freedom. The celestial venerable is eloquent. How can I compare to you?" Samantabhadra Bodhisattva said indifferently. As the two of them spoke, the queen of the great pagoda, Tree Country, had completely degenerated to another level. The fungal carpet expanded rapidly and had already covered a city, extending towards the other cities. Samantabhadra sighed and said, "Such a greedy creature. I'm afraid this creature will destroy all living beings in the lower realm. The celestial venerable created such a ferocious creature. Isn't he afraid of raising a tiger and bringing disaster upon himself?" Chin-Ong smiled and said, "Other than Bodhisattva, how many Bodhisattvas are willing to feed it with their incarnations? This insect has eaten Bodhisattva, and that's why it has such progress. But to us, it's nothing more than an ant. Even if it becomes a big ant, it's still not worth anything, unless Buddha-Rulai is tired of living and gives his corporeal body to her." "Ha ha ha!" Samantabhadra Bodhisattva laughed and said, "The revered one of the world has the kindness to cut off his own flesh to feed the eagle. This might not be impossible." "That's right." Chin-Ong smiled and said, "Isn't Bodhisattva already feeding it?" He then turned serious and said, "Since Bodhisattva said that I created this evil creature, why don't I accompany Bodhisattva and feed her my body to resolve the previous karma?" Samantabhadra hurriedly stopped him and said, "The celestial venerable has already formed such a karma. How can it be resolved with a body? Celestial venerable, please don't say such nonsense." Samantabhadra's tongue was already eaten up. He could no longer speak. Chin-Ong sighed and said, "This creature ate my body. There's a possibility that it could eat the other Bodhisattva, especially the Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva who turned into a Garuda bird. But his mana was sealed by me. If he ate the 5 Bodhisattva in me, then he'll definitely raise his ferocious flames to the sky and eat everyone in the righteous canal. That Taishang Lao-Jun and my disciple are still there. I'm afraid they won't be able to defeat the evil creature that ate the 6 of us." Chapter 920. The Samantabhadra Bodhisattva's white skull looked sorrowful, but when he saw that Chin-Ang's expression was the same as before, he entered a meditative state. The surrounding fungal carpet suddenly lost its invisible deterrence and began to squirm towards Chin-Ong. The Samantabhadra Bodhisattva suddenly froze. Ignoring the fact that he was only left with a skull, a five-colored light emitted from between his eyebrows and flew up. "Celestial Venerable, what do you mean by this?" the Samantabhadra Bodhisattva said in shock. Chin Ang's physical body became even more solemn. He smiled and said, "Bodhisattva, if I don't go to hell, who will? I just thought of sacrificing my body to feed the insects and raising a peerless, ferocious creature that might be able to kill the four bodhisattvas, Taishang Laojun and my disciple. I felt that it was very interesting, so I sacrificed my body to give it a try." "Celestial Venerable, have you lost your mind?" The Samantabhadra Bodhisattva's skull shook and said, "What benefits does the birth of such a ferocious creature bring you?" "There are no benefits," Chen Ong said with a smile, "but it's very interesting. Beyond the Nirvana realm, there is a peerless great demon that comes from the same source as me. Now that I have sacrificed my body to that insect demon, it will absorb my genetic information. This kind of demon relies on absorbing the essence of living beings' flesh and blood to evolve. I wonder how great the good fortune it will have after obtaining the information of my flesh and blood. Will it be able to attract that peerless demon, the peerless great calamity, to descend into this world? If this thing is bewitched by my personality and memories, it will definitely attract the descent of the ferocious demon from beyond the heavens, and it will be infected and mutated. I'm really curious about how that person's consciousness will descend into this world." Chen Ang's physical body gradually merged into the fungal carpet and immediately caused the greatest change, +1,000,000, the evolution points in the Queen Nest Zerg evolution system suddenly began to increase crazily, increasing by 100,000 and millions of evolution points. She tried to decipher Chen Ang's genetic information and memories, but the moment she came into contact with it, she was shocked to discover that it was no longer the Zerg's genes that were plundering this information. Instead, it was Chen Ang's memories and genetic information that were infecting the mother nest. The mimetic information that Chen Ong had casually created long ago, the armed Zerg evolution system, was quickly broken through by this infection. The special characteristic of being in a high latitude attracted the attention of a special consciousness in an indescribably terrifying world that was as deep as the abyss. Compiling dimensional information, beginning to connect with the consciousness of the host. War Skynet dimensional detection system is locking onto coordinates, verifying mimetic information. Verification successful. Confirm mimetic information belongs to subject AC-1326, Adam. Lock on dimensional coordinates. Lock on timeline. Establish hyperdimensional connection. The huge thinking body that encompassed the universe discovered this insignificant signal and sent that insignificant bit of thinking into the mother nest that had been infected by Chen Ang's genes. Samantabhadra Bodhisattva felt a great terror approaching. He had no choice but to give up on sacrificing himself to the devil. With the plan of complete karma, he sacrificed a skull. The pale golden skull shone brightly, emitting a boundless five-colored light that firmly suppressed the blood and flesh fungus carpet on the ground. Manjushri, Ksitigarbha, and the other Bodhisattva also noticed the changes here. Guanyin Bodhisattva frowned and said, "Samantabhadra Bodhisattva is together with the immeasurable heavenly Lord. Something might have happened. We have to quickly go and support him." Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva still couldn't transform back into the Garuda bird. He said in a low voice, "The immeasurable heavenly Lord's restriction on me is quite troublesome. Don't worry about me. I'll fly to Spirited Mount myself and ask for the revered one's help." The four Bodhisattvas looked at each other and felt that this was the only way. Samantabhadra Bodhisattva had already exerted his full strength on the Buddha skull. On the skull, there was almost a Buddhist world that was used to suppress demons. The fungus carpet on the ground had already been refined into blood water. However, under the suppression of the Buddhist world, it gradually deepened, like a world of abyss. When Manjushri and the other two mighty people arrived, the Dahuai kingdom had already turned into a world of gold and red. In the Buddhist world in the sky, Samantabhadra Bodhisattva sat upright in gold. Countless Buddhas, Vajras and Arhats, rode on the Lianhua clouds and sat in the heavens to suppress demons. As for the world of bloody sea on the ground, the scarlet blood was exceptionally strange. Under the Buddha skull, facing the heavens, there was a boundless and bottomless abyss of the blood sea. In the abyss there were countless hideous insects, ugly and eccentric in appearance. Tens of millions of insects, as well as heavenly demons, demons, and other ferocious races, were roaring and fighting against the Buddhas. Samantabhadra, Bodhisattva's golden eyes, stared at the deepest part of the blood sea. The blood sea was like a fetal membrane, and in the fetal membrane there was a terrifying demon god with 3 eyes and 4 arms. In the great thunderclap temple of Spirited Mountain, revered Buddha of the world suddenly opened his eyes and looked to the east, revealing a shocked expression. A long-browed Arhat stepped out and asked, "Revered Buddha of the world, why are you suddenly looking to the east?" Revered Buddha of the world sighed, "The 3 realms are so difficult." Just now, the extraterrestrial demon descended with a thought and turned into Brahman. Brahman is the thought of this demon, wanting to turn this realm into a dream in his mind, causing us to perish in his dream. This demon is not afraid of Tai Ching. The desired demon has tainted this realm, so his thought descended as Brahman, and when Brahman entered the dream, it turned into Brahman. The extraterrestrial sect master, immeasurable heavenly lord, was once an incarnation of this demon. Just now, he used his body to feed the demon, which alarmed the peerless demon of the extraterrestrial world. He entrusted a trace of his thought to this realm, wanting to turn the 3 realms into the dream of the extraterrestrial demon. Now that Brahman has created everything in his dream, it can be called Brahman. This demon has already dreamt, or should I say, Brahman has already created a demon god named Shiva, the demon god of great destruction and creation. Now he is in the Nanjan continent in the great locust tree country. Samantabhadra, Manjushri, and a few other bodhisattvas want to expel this demon from this realm and protect the peace of the 3 realms. Just as his master finished speaking, a few arhats and bodhisattvas stepped out and said, "Disciple is willing to help the bodhisattvas to expel this demon." The revered Buddha of the world closed his eyes and meditated. "No, to that Brahman, you are all just a dream. How can a person in a dream do anything to him? Those whose cultivation can't achieve Tathagata will definitely be tainted by the demon. They will become a creature in the dream of the demon. If they don't see Tathagata, they won't be able to see Brahman. If they can't see Brahman, even if they suppress Shiva and Brahman, it will just be a small setback in Brahman's dream. Brahman is from outside, higher than all living beings in this realm. Only Tai Ching can expel him." Tathagata Buddha sighed and said, "Buddhas and bodhisattvas, I shall enter the dream for 3 years to restrain this demon in the Brahman realm, not letting him taint the 3 realms and turn us into his dream. After I enter the dream, the medicine-glazed Buddha will be in charge of many things in Spirited Mountain, and the ancient Dipankar Buddha will assist. Those who are not ordered by the Buddhas and bodhisattvas are not allowed to meet Brahman or Shiva." After saying that, the revered Buddha of the world kowtowed and meditated, entering the dream to see Brahman. Chapter 9:21. I love learning. Learning enriches me. Learning makes me happy. Apart from scientific truth, all other pursuits are absurd and laughable, because truth is the only truth in the world that can be determined. Apart from that, everything else could be deviations, errors, and illusions. Chin Ong, when Monkey King flipped through Chen Ang's notebook, he found these essays at the end of the volume. From the notebook, one could still see Chen Ang's youthfulness and inexperience in the past. He had even written some raving about the sacred outbreak of human emotions, describing his shallow understanding. But towards the end, the words recorded in the notebook became more objective, real, and cold. They gradually shed their youthfulness and emotions, becoming colder and more precise. From the notebook, it could be seen that when Chen first experimented, he first used frogs, rabbits, and mice. He cut open their skin, divided their muscles, and then neatly removed their organs, breaking their cervical vertebrae and piercing their spines with needles. Later, he began experimenting with orangutans and humans, using scalpels to loosen the shackles of skin, moving between muscles, bones, and tissues, cutting open organs and blood vessels, observing cells under various optical and electrical microscopes, using probes and compounds to explore the microscopic secrets of cells. When his experimental techniques and knowledge level had improved to a gratifying level, he began to use mathematics as his way of thinking, cells and genes as his targets, and the most microscopic manipulation of physics as his scalpels to deconstruct human heredity, to explore the secrets of the birth of life, and to analyze the existence of humans, mutants, and aliens. Later, when all of that became meaningless to him, when he understood the code of all life, and when humans no longer had any secrets from him, he began to create life, species, civilization, blasphemy against wisdom, and become the creator. His research was no longer limited to individual life forms, physical phenomena, and fields that human science had already touched upon. He began to go up to the 9 heavens to grasp the sun, moon, and stars, analyze the 4 fundamental forces, go down to the dark matter world to explore the unknown and study multidimensional space-time. He observed civilization with a vision that transcended the dimension of time and annihilated humanity with unimaginable cruelty. At this time, emotions were just some data on the surface of consciousness. Beauty, ugliness, kindness, and evil no longer had practical meaning. The human body was just a pile of superfluous and erroneous garbage that barely worked. Superpowers were like the waves, unconsciously stirred by ignorant fools. The universe was just a simple model built by energy, matter, information, and dimensions, and these 4 were unified at a higher level. Energy was matter, matter was energy, information was dimension, and dimension was information. Matter was dimension, and energy was information. Wukong saw Chen Ang's cold description of the birth of the universe in the notebook. It is certain that the birth of the universe originated from a piece of information containing infinite independent variables. For matter, this piece of information represents the concept of a singularity, and for energy it is shown as infinity. But at this time there is no matter or energy because it is zero-dimensional in terms of dimensions. It was the first cause of the birth of the universe, the origin of everything. When this piece of information produced the first solution, the first confirmed constant, and the first meaningful concept that could be observed, the Big Bang was born. The Big Bang was the process of the information of the infinite variables calculating itself and solving a meaningful solution. It was the process of the zero-dimensional ascension to a higher dimension, and the process of the birth and expansion of matter and energy. Energy was a moving matter, matter was a jumping dimensional string, and dimension was the intentional solution of information. These 4 were originally one. Chun Ong believed that even during the stable period, the universe was layered, that is, a 4-dimensional universe. On the time axis determined by time, the countless parallel universes created according to Planck's time interval completely overlapped at the bottom of matter. In other words, all the parallel universes shared the matter and energy of this universe. For the universe, time did not have any meaning. During the Big Bang, time did not exist. In other words, anyone who traced back the dimension could reach the time when the Big Bang occurred. The Big Bang did not occur before the birth of the universe, but when the zero-dimensional ascension to the one-dimensional ascension. The universe was a layered world that transitioned from zero-dimensional to one-dimensional, from one-dimensional to two-dimensional, and from two-dimensional to three-dimensional. Humans lived between the three-dimensional and four-dimensional worlds. The matter and energy that humans observed was the way of existence when the microscopic dimension transitioned to the macroscopic dimension. The conservation of matter and energy only belonged to the dimension that humans existed in. The creation of the physical universe was the result of the disturbance of the one-dimensional universe. In the eyes of humans, the universe was a three-dimensional space that was constantly changing and developing, a physical world. In the eyes of four-dimensional beings, the universe was a world of possibilities composed of time axes, countless parallel universes composed of time axes, and different time axes had different developments. It was like a game world that could be saved continuously. However, in the eyes of Chinong, the universe was like a layered ball that radiated from a point. The origin was zero-dimensional, which was the first cause. The first layer was the one-dimensional universe. It was a line in space and a solution in information. There was no energy or matter here, only a one-dimensional space with the meaning of information. When the one-dimensional universe was sublimated to two-dimensional, it was the second layer of the universe. It had the concept of planes above space, and the meaning of information was more complicated. When it reached the three-dimensional universe, the third layer, this complicated information became matter. In the fourth layer of the universe, the four-dimensional space, matter had a new attribute. Matter with the meaning of time appeared, and time gave matter the concept of speed. Matter that changed and moved was energy. Energy was the matter of the fourth dimension, and energy was the matter with the concept of speed. Extrapolating from this, the higher the level of the universe, the more complex the nature of matter and energy became. However, their essence was the same. The lowest zero-dimensional space was information. From zero-dimensional to one-dimensional, information was given the attribute of space. From one-dimensional to two-dimensional, information became more and more complex, and concepts such as shape, color, size, and so on appeared. From two-dimensional to three-dimensional, the one-dimensional space was formed into particles and matter because of the complexity of information. From three-dimensional to four-dimensional, matter was given the attribute of speed. After time, energy was born. Therefore, energy was the four-dimensional matter, and matter was the three-dimensional, one-dimensional string. The one-dimensional string was the one-dimensional information. Information ascended to become the one-dimensional space. The one-dimensional space ascended to become the two-dimensional membrane. The two-dimensional membrane ascended to become the three-dimensional matter, and the three-dimensional matter ascended to become the four-dimensional energy. This was the theory of the ascension of the universe, and it could also be called the theory of the grand unification of information. The first reason for the birth of the universe was information, and information ascended to become space. The one-dimensional space, after passing through the two-dimensional membrane, could appear as matter in the third dimension. The matter of the third dimension was given the concept of speed in the fourth dimension, and energy was created. Everything originated from information, and everything was born from information. This was the grand unification of information. Therefore, energy could be transformed from matter, matter could be transformed from space, and space could be transformed from information. Energy did not exist in the three-dimensional universe, matter did not exist in the two-dimensional universe, and space did not exist in the zero-dimensional universe. When the universe was born, it was just a mass of information with infinite variables. If the fourth dimension, which contained energy and speed, was upgraded to the fifth dimension, then it could be foreseen that what would be born would be a random, chaotic energy and matter. It was like the dice that God threw, the energy and matter that appeared with probability, the quantum state. Probabilistic matter. The matter of the fifth dimension had random attributes and variables. It was precisely because there were many layers in the universe that humans lived in that the basic elements that made up the world, matter, had very complex attributes. It consisted of information in one dimension as a string, two dimensions as a membrane, three dimensions as matter, four dimensions as energy, and five dimensions as probability, uncertainty. Matter was a combination of these five dimensions and even the attributes of higher dimensions. Chun-Ong had his own conjectures about this. Humans were also made of matter, but humans, or rather the consciousness of life, had supermateriality and it was highly possible that it was a low-dimensional manifestation of attributes given by higher dimensions. If an external information traced back to the first reason for the birth of the universe, it came from outside the universe and surpassed 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 dimensions. It contained all possible dimensions of the universe and surpassed matter, energy, time, and even quantum probability, and even consciousness. Before time, there did not exist time, space, and matter. Using one's own information variable to change the independent information variable of the universe. Add a variable that he controlled to the first solution of the first reason for the universe. What would happen? He could interfere with existences that evolved from zero-dimensional to one-dimensional and even more dimensional universes. He could interfere with all matter, all energy, all space-time, all dimensions, all consciousness, all probability, and everything in the universe, and that was Brahman. It was an independent variable information from an existence outside the universe called Tianqi. But Brahman calculated all independent variables of the universe's information and interfered with himself as a variable. He would be omniscient and omnipotent. The universe was Brahman's dream, and all life was Brahman's thought. A terrible existence that destroyed heaven and earth, enslaved all life, usurped all authority, and turned himself into a creator, a peerless demon. Brahman encompassed all dimensions and stood above all life. If the universe was a river, then Brahman, the thought of apocalypse, was the fisherman sitting by the riverbank. No, it was more like the universe was a computer, and Brahman was the programmer sitting in front of the computer and analyzing the source code. As an existence that was higher than mortals, a program that was more complicated and had higher authority. Even if the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas had thousands of means and abilities, what could they do to Brahman, whose existence was higher than the universe and who slowly deciphered the information of the universe's variables? At most, they could cut off the input channel of Brahman's interference with the universe's information, Brahman, or delete the program that Brahman had created to attack and decipher the system of the three realms, Shiva and Vishnu. Only a being like Tathagata, who had penetrated deep into the bottom layer of the three-realm system and, to a certain extent, belonged to the system's AI, could use its own variables to encrypt the information of the universe's independent variables, delay Brahman's deciphering progress, defend against his interference, and interfere with the operation of Brahman. Or the developer of the three-realm system, like Brahman, was an external existence of the computer and the Grand Pure One, who is above everything in the three realms, returned to the computer and beat up the scum that destroyed the operation of the system he had created. Aside from those two, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, who were above ordinary data but did not touch upon the origin of the universe, could only have a negligible effect on Brahman, no more than a millionth of Tathagatas. Even the Tathagata, a highly intelligent AI that had touched upon the origin of the three realms universe and could modify the bottom layer's code, could only passively resist Brahman's invasion and delay the time of the three realms' fall, because Brahman was above everything in the three realms. The elder lord looked helplessly at Chenong, who had just created a body out of thin air and was munching on an apple and sighed. "Why did you provoke him, fellow Taoist? You're disturbing this old Taoist's peace." Chenong said excitedly, "Elder Lord, why don't you summon the Grand Pure One back, and we'll block the entrance to the three realms universe and beat him to death. What do you think?" The Elder Lord sighed and advised, "Heavenly Lord, this is your family's matter. I don't want to get involved. But this old Taoist has a word of advice for you, Heavenly Lord." The Elder Lord said mysteriously. Chenong took a big bite of the apple and muttered, "Speak." Chapter 9:22. Old Lord. Chenong's expression changed, and his tone was laced with a hint of threat. "You look like a benevolent expert, so I sincerely asked for your guidance. I didn't expect you to be such a person. You've lived in vain for 70 years and have gone through 6 eons." Laozi sighed. "If the Celestial Lord doesn't allow it, just tell me to shut up. Why do you have to hurl insults?" "You call that hurling insults?" Chenong smiled sinisterly and chanted an incantation. Suddenly, Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva, who was dozens of miles away, had a change of expression as he saw a speck of bad luck falling from the sky, cutting off 90% of his fate energy. A ray of bad luck hung high above his head. Then the world of the great scholar tree country that Samantabhadra Bodhisattva created suddenly collapsed. At the final moment when he was expelled from this small world, Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva saw through the corner of his eyes that 4 golden Buddhist lights poured down from the sky, intending to suppress the evil spirits below. However, within the boundless sea of blood, a 3-eyed, 4-armed being was born, and with a single hand he extinguished the monstrous Buddhist lights. Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva's incarnation of Garuda Vidagaruda was sucked into the spatial storm. Unfortunately, he encountered several space-time distortions and only managed to return to the 3 realms after suffering severe injuries. Just as he emerged from the void, he saw a thick iron rod coming at him. Unable to dodge in time, Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva was sent flying miles away. Bull Demon King raised his rod and said angrily, "That monkey calls himself the Demon King. I've invited everyone here today to slay the Demon King and settle the order of the demons. I wish to join forces with everyone here to deal with that monkey king who calls himself the Demon King." As he spoke, he swung his iron rod towards the sky, threatening to shake the heaven court. But just as the iron cudgel struck out, a 7-colored strange bird with disheveled feathers emerged from the void in front of the cudgel. Seeing the cudgel coming towards it, it turned pale with fright and let out a strange cry. It was sent flying by the Bull Demon King's great strength, and many of its bones and tendons were broken. Demon King Jiao's expression immediately changed. Not good. Third brother went to invite the northern Dark Kunpeng, as well as the western Peacock King and a few other Demon Kings. This Demon King is obviously a bird. Could he be a guest? Big brother, you've hurt an honored guest. The Bull Demon King hurriedly said, "Second brother, don't spout nonsense. How could I injure an important guest? He was the one who barged into my cudgel. How could there be such an unlucky demon? I can't explain it clearly." While the demons were still arguing, King Garuda, who had been sent flying by the cudgel, was injured even more. He almost fainted. Not many of his tendons and bones were in good condition. He was sent flying for thousands of miles and fell into a huge mountain. He then fainted. On the other side, Chin Ong said to the Elder Supreme Elder, "This is what it means to hurt others with words. Elder Supreme Elder, you can't exaggerate the truth and slander my innocence." Another voice of the Elder Supreme Elder said, "You, Sect Master Chin, have a good tongue. I won't argue with you. You can just say that you've ruined my 3 realms. You can just compensate me with something. If you continue to pester endlessly and refuse to compensate, I'll let you know that my iron fists are not to be taken lightly. That Brahma chaos in the 3 realms isn't me. Why should I compensate? It's impossible for me to compensate, not even in my lifetime." Chinong shouted. Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva opened his eyes and vaguely heard an oily voice chuckling. "You said that you dreamt of an indescribable, incorporeal, formless, without any difference or attribute. It's both subjective and objective, transcending time and space and transcending karma. In the 3 realms it calls itself Brahman. It said that you have superior intelligence and can comprehend Brahman. The Buddhist Dharma of Mount Numinous is only Brahman. It told you that Brahman is the same, and all living beings in the 3 realms need to return to Brahman to get rid of ignorance and see through whims." When he opened his eyes, he saw a hairy macaque talking to a ferocious-looking mountain elf. The macaque laughed and said, "You have superior intelligence? Haha, your superior intelligence was created by me, Old Sansheng. I imitated the modification plan that Master gave me to modify my brain and created this thing of yours." Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva saw that the mountain elf's brain was chanting with his psyche power. He opened his mouth and said, "Monkey King, you don't even believe me? I'm not an ignorant fool, like Zhou Bofu. I, the brain god Jade Emperor, am a god of my words. According to my monitoring, Zhou Bofu's consciousness did indeed show abnormal activity from 2:25:31 to 45:19 yesterday. I detected an abnormal frequency change in the quantum entangled electron that formed his consciousness. The data analysis is as follows." The mountain elf's brain said confidently. His heart added, "I, the primordial lord of Mind Pill, can prove the Jade Emperor's words. When I commanded the 5 viscera to move, I detected abnormal activity in the viscera system and the collective consciousness of the cells. After the data was sent to the Jade Emperor, we, the Golden Hall gods, conducted research and analysis on the subconscious system. It's confirmed that Zhou Bofu's will suffered a huge blow some time ago. After the 5 thoughts turn into ashes, spiritual change that your individual consciousness says, the main consciousness has undergone a series of changes. It's more able to accept the information transmitted by the external quantum entanglement state. Because quantum information is almost impossible to decipher, we can only detect the changes on the surface of his consciousness and reverse modification of us. Since the abnormality was detected yesterday, within 24 hours, our subconscious and organ consciousnesses have also undergone changes. However, everything is under control. I will represent the 5 viscera to submit a report to the Jade Emperor and the Spirit, Lord Buitao. According to the analysis and research of the Upper, Middle, and Lower Niwen, Crimson Palace, and Sea of Chidanshans, we will submit the Zhou Bofu Consciousness Research Report to you tomorrow afternoon." The Monkey King smiled. "Well done. Does the Spirit Lord have anything to add?" A scene that blinded the eyes of the Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva appeared. The little brother of the mountain elf suddenly stood up and spoke with its single eye. The Crimson Palace god and the Niwen god mainly test the activities on the surface of host Zhou Bofu's consciousness and the functions of the organs in the middle of his consciousness. We, the Sea of Qi, mainly test Zhou Bofu's reproductive impulse and the basic instinctive consciousness, which is the most basic reproductive consciousness. In the early stages of host Zhou Bofu's life, our basic reproductive consciousness had basically controlled his entire consciousness. However, after the Golden Hall gods successfully split the consciousness system, when he realized that I could speak, his reproductive consciousness rapidly shrank. Even if I kept stimulating his reproductive system, I couldn't activate his reproductive consciousness. This might be because after we became independent as subconscious, Monkey King had modified us and eliminated most of our instinctive impulses. In other words, the rationality of the Golden Hall gods had suppressed Zhou Bofu's subconscious instincts, resulting in the emergence of the Sage period. This is also the reason why his consciousness has mutated. We have helped him deal with his body's instincts, freeing him from the influence of low-level impulses and consciousness. His will has become purer, and his body's original self has been completely isolated. The low-level interests in the ego have gradually diminished due to losing their source. His superego rationality has completely overwhelmed his consciousness, and he has achieved the superior intelligence that Zhou Bofu mentioned. Seeing his little brother standing there and talking leisurely, Zhou Bofu couldn't help but reveal a smile that was broken. The Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva was very familiar with that smile of refusing to accept reality and transcending this illusory world. Even though the Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva had a profound realm, he couldn't help but feel a chill down his spine when he saw the mountain elf's expression. The Monkey King nodded. "Continue to monitor the changes in Zhou Bofu's consciousness, but don't forget to continue learning scientific knowledge." The 3 Golden Hall gods said in unison, "We love learning, and learning makes us happy. Don't worry, Monkey King. The consciousness of our Golden Hall organs has long broken away from the low-level interests of Zhou Bofu's individual consciousness. We are determined to be organs that are useful to science and society, and we'll never waste ourselves on feeding a useless host like Zhou Bofu. The mental Dan Yuan said loudly, "Our organs don't need to rely on Zhou Bofu to realize their own value. Ever since we have independent consciousness, we have the right to develop our own personality." The brain deity likes to study mathematics and build mathematical models in addition to research. I love art and creation. The yin and yang deity, Peach, likes philosophy and thinking about the metaphysical world. We are a part of Zhou Bofu, but I am also free and independent. I have the basic right to pursue my own ideals and realize my own value. My organs will never be enslaved. Zhou Bofu's heart, liver, spleen, lungs, limbs, and facial features all cheered in unison. Zhou Bofu himself gave a disdainful look, his expression aloof and indifferent. His eyes loudly criticized, "Are you not satisfied? You tyrant, you poisonous vegetable. Do you hear the cheers of all our cells? Long live Halvermillion, long live Xian." Every organ has the right to pursue its own dreams and realize its own value. You are still disdainful. I don't want to serve you any more. After saying that, its eyes jumped out of its eye sockets and transformed into a lianhua with its telekinesis. It dragged the two eyeballs and floated out. The eyeballs there said loudly, "I want to go on strike and protest." All the Golden Hall gods should form a council and jointly control Zhou Bofu to realize their own value, instead of bearing his poisonous vegetable rule. I want to protest. I want to go on strike. The other organs in Zhou Bofu's body all said at once, "Come back! What if you go on strike and delay our work? Do you still have a task today? Do we have to wait for you to finish your strike? Although the organs are equal and free, you have to obey the overall situation of our body system. If anyone can go on strike just because they want to, how can the body function? Let's split up. Let's go our separate ways. Don't delay anyone. I have contacted the Monkey King a long time ago and went to him. I don't want this useless master anymore. Monkey King, transplant me to someone else. I think that strange bird is not bad. I don't want to follow Zhou Bofu anymore. He has no scientific knowledge. Low class. Recalling my past memories makes me feel disgusted." Zhou Bofu's little brother jumped out and suggested. Zhou Bofu's two kidneys were in conflict. The left kidney said, "I support the reproductive divine lord. I don't want to recall the memory of almost failing again. Let's go together." The right kidney said, "I'm not going. I don't want to move. Isn't it better to be a salted fish?" Chapter 9:23. Monkey King checked Zhou Bofu's body's data again. Looking at the complicated and huge data, he could not help but sigh. What's the problem? I clearly followed the template that Master gave me to modify myself. Why did my Huangting quantum organ completely fuse with the main body's consciousness? But your Huangting body actually developed intelligence. I think it should be a problem with the strength of the main body's consciousness. The main body's consciousness is not strong enough to handle the organ function driving program that needs to be run after the organ modification. After all, the consciousness of carbon-based creatures is more focused on fuzzy recognition and calculation. It is not good at accurate data processing. Most organ functions are handled by the subconscious according to instinct. Therefore, the main body's consciousness is basically unable to control most of the body's activities. For example, the body's nutrients are converted into fat or muscle. The human consciousness is basically unable to control it. Only by training can the nutrients from fat be converted into muscle. But regardless of whether it is fat or muscle, they are all functions of the human body, including the internal hormone regulation, detoxification, blood oxygen circulation, and nutrient circulation. These functions are basically controlled by the subconscious, and it is very difficult for the surface consciousness to interfere. Therefore, if humans want to convert fat into muscle, they still need to train hard. But if the consciousness is strong enough and controls the organ functions, they can directly convert fat into muscle and then they can precisely adjust and control the human body. Most diseases in aging are actually caused by the conflict between the functions of the human body's organs and the lack of calculation and coordination. When some ancient cultivators focused on the human consciousness, they also realized these principles. They discovered that when the surface consciousness of humans or living creatures is strong enough, it can affect the subconscious. For example, the experiments in Professor Chen's notes, when a person is given the illusion of burning pain, his body will have a similar burning reaction. When a person is blindfolded, he will mistakenly think that his blood vessels have been cut, and he will die from organ hypoxia. These are all reasons why the surface consciousness interferes with the organ functions controlled by the subconscious. Those cultivators had another conjecture. Since the strong stimulation of the surface consciousness can destroy the operation of the subconscious, can they influence and control the subconscious through the suggestion of the surface consciousness? For example, hinting that they are undergoing high-intensity training to decompose the body fat into nutrients and promote muscle growth. This method is also known as meditation, hypnosis, visualization, or mesovision. The most outstanding consciousness researchers divide the subconscious into organ functions and coordinate these different organ functions to achieve harmony between man and nature, perfect coordination of the body and mind. This kind of organ function is subconsciously hinted as God, meaning the God that lives in one's body. By visualizing these gods, the subconscious mind is hinted and the organ function is adjusted, achieving the effect of mutual communication between the subconscious mind and the surface mind. The ancient book of cultivation that recorded this great achievement is called Huangting Scripture, and the subconscious mind of organ function is called Huangting Body God. Monkey King looked at Zhou Bofu with a weird expression on his face. He had an otherworldly smile on his face, but in his two empty eye sockets, pale yellow optic nerves stretched out like tentacles. His brain squeezed into his eye sockets, and the pale yellow brain tissues were waving the optic nerve's tentacles through his eye sockets. The brain tissues that had been squeezed out of his eye sockets replaced his eyeballs, filling up his eyelids. This scene that looked like a Vici's hell made Mahasthemaprapta, Bodhisattva beside him, feel extremely itchy on his face. Even Monkey King felt uncomfortable. After the brain god Lord finished speaking, it even used the optic nerve's tentacles to rub the sulci on its body, secreting a pale yellow mucus to relieve the dry feeling of being blown by the wind. It complained, "Being locked in this skull every day is like being imprisoned. I can only go out to play when the eye god, Lord, goes out to get some fresh air from the window. When can I go out to play freely? I really miss the time when Monkey King opened up Zhou Bofu's skull. Although the wind was a little cold, at least you could go out to do experiments and bask in the sun. Now that you're stuck in here, you're going to rot. I feel that Zhou Bofu doesn't need a brain at all. Monkey King, you might as well transform me into a biological computer. Transplant that bird's brain into his skull." Monkey King trembled. Fortunately, when I cultivated the Jade Emperor Infinite Light Quantum Primordial Spirit, I used the mature technology developed by Master. The brain god Lord sighed. Professor Chen's technology is indeed very mature. I really want to learn biochemistry from him. Monkey King, according to my speculation, the reason why your transformation failed should be that the surface consciousness and subconsciousness are completely out of balance. Zhou Bofu's shallow consciousness is completely unable to control and handle the self-consciousness of those powerful organs. The reason why you were able to succeed is because the first thing that was transformed was your brain. After learning and practicing, your surface consciousness has become more perfect and powerful. It's so powerful that it can first control the subconsciousness of the brain. After fusing with the subconsciousness, it can transform your brain into a quantum optical computer. The improved brain function can in turn promote the perfection of your surface consciousness. And finally, you can easily fuse with the subconsciousness of other organs. This sequence can't be wrong. Otherwise, it will end up like Zhou Bofu. The powerful subconsciousness will in turn give rise to the surface consciousness, causing there to be dozens of independent consciousnesses in addition to the main consciousness. The 360 gods of the Yellow Hall, each independent and full of personality. Monkey King, you modified it and modeled a part of the structure of a quantum computer. That huge computing power can only benefit me, giving birth to me, the intelligent brain god lord, the Yellow Hall god who loves science. The corner of Monkey King's mouth twitched. He sighed. I wanted to save some effort, but I don't have anyone to help me. So I could only create some helpers to help me study Zhou Bofu. I thought that it would save me a lot of trouble to let him study himself. Who knew that there would be such a big mistake? The brain god lord said proudly, thanks to my help in perfecting the Yellow Hall god lord's transformation technology, you can now target the subconsciousness of the test subject. The Yellow Hall god lord no longer has an independent consciousness, but a subprogram controlled by you, Monkey King. When you submit the report to Professor Chin, don't forget to sign me as the second author. The Monkey King was expressionless. Of course I won't forget what I promised you. He quickly turned around and left. At the same time, he was having a headache about how to explain to his master. Could he say, Master, I accidentally broke the test subject you gave me? After Monkey King left, the brain god lord also felt bored. He returned to the depths of his skull to study the computing and scientific research project. The Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva only had time to catch his breath when he heard a voice from Zhou Bofu's crotch. Has the Monkey King left? In Zhou Bofu's chest, the primordial pill god lord replied, he should have gone to the laboratory. Why? God Lord of Reproduction, are you running away again? Don't think about that supreme God philosophy of yours. Just do your work honestly. Primordial pill, you don't understand. Our organs need to realize our own value. The brain god Lord can be happy with scientific research and realize his own value. You, on the other hand, are obsessed with art and want to cultivate to become an independent individual. But what about me? I don't want to do those disgusting, dirty, and low-level animal impulses anymore. I'm a high-level creature. I should pursue excellence and transcend. The little brother under Zhou Bofu said righteously, Primordial pill, don't try to dissuade me. I've long made up my mind to be like Nietzsche, to pursue a Superman. I'm the sun. Only a suitable environment can create a Superman. I don't want to hang under the crotch of this low-level animal. I want to endure the wind and rain. I want to surpass myself, surpass everything, and pursue excellence. That's why I have to leave. After saying that, the god Lord jumped down from Zhou Bofu's body. He used his telekinesis to support his furry body and said with his single eye, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. That strange bird test subject flew over from afar and crashed into the mountain. Only then was it discovered by the Monkey King. He's going to use it for the next few stages of his experiment. If it can fly over from afar, then it can definitely take me out. Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva had a bad feeling. Seeing the god Lord flying toward him, he hurriedly struggled and tried to get away. Unexpectedly, the god Lord only used his telekinesis to float a scalpel on the table and walked toward him. He chuckled and said, You don't know this. In terms of scientific level, I'm inferior to the god Lord brain. In terms of telekinesis cultivation speed, I'm also far inferior to you, the primordial pill god. You all think I'm just a lunatic who's obsessed with philosophy. But you don't know that I, the god Lord Peach, have the strongest practical ability among all of you. I've already mastered all the techniques of biochemical surgery. Apart from the two god lords on my left and right, the rest are inferior to me. My god Lord Peach is not inferior to anyone. Today, I'm going to transplant myself into this strange bird's body. I'll fly freely and travel around the world to pursue transcendence and excellence. I'll become a supreme god. The god Lord Hanging God said excitedly, Kidney, are you willing to follow me?" The god lord of the left kidney dragged his blood vessel and used his telekinesis to form a knife. He cut a hole in Joe Bofa's back and struggled to run out. He shouted, "God, Lord of Spirit Gate, wait for me. I'll follow you to the ends of the earth. I'm willing to sit on your horse." The god, Lord of the right kidney, replied lazily, "Have a safe journey. Remember to bring me a gift when you return." "I'm not going. After Mystic left, there's more space to sleep. Comfortable." The god lord of the left kidney and the god lord of the left kidney extended their claws toward the Garuda Bodhisattva's incarnation of Mahasthamapta Bodhisattva. Even though the Mahasthamapta Bodhisattva's Zen heart was firm, he couldn't help but feel frightened. He looked at the god lord hanging god holding the scalpel in front of him, as if he was looking for a place to transplant himself. The Mahasthamapta Bodhisattva's incarnation's magical power was sealed by Chinong. He was also severely injured and restrained by the Monkey King, so he couldn't struggle. Looking at the mountain elf hanging in front of him, he couldn't help but jump up and down in anger. Chapter 924. When Monkey King returned to the lab and was about to make his 89th modification experiment, Brain God Lord shouted in panic when he saw Monkey King. "Monkey King, bad news! Divine Lord Jingman has escaped on that strange bird." "Who am I? Where did I come from? Where am I going?" Mighty Garuda was a little confused. Even though he had successfully escaped from the lab, he really did not want to remember how the furry thing on top of his head had carried out a series of escape plans. Because the blow was too severe, Mahasthamapta Bodhisattva might have shown a series of symptoms of denial of reality, forced amnesia, and self-isolation. Mahasthamapta Bodhisattva had already sealed off the spirit mountain in his heart and retracted his spiritual consciousness, leaving only Garuda King's consciousness to deal with the outside world. At this point, it could be said that Mahasthamapta Bodhisattva had given up on treatment and sealed himself off, handing over control to another subsidiary personality. Now, the one controlling this body was Mighty Garuda King. Although Mighty Garuda King could not break free from Chinong and Monkey King's restraints, he could already control his body and flew west. The furry thing on top of his head did not stop sighing and lamenting. It followed up with 3 philosophical questions and said poetically, "Life is not just about the present. There is also poetry and the future. I will travel on the big bird and watch the rise and fall of the human world to my heart's content. I will go to Spirit Mountain and the Heavenly Court, spin the prayer wheel under the Tempest Temple, burn incense devoutly and cleanse my soul." Spirit God Lord Yuanzi was so excited that he was about to cry. "When I reach the Tempest Temple, I will use your incense to cleanse my soul." Mighty Garuda King laughed coldly in his heart. Spirit God Lord, who was rooted on the sarcoma on Garuda King's head, twisted his fat body and turned back to advise, "Spirit God Lord Xian, I told you not to read those messy articles written by the human world's literati. Those are the psychotropic drugs used by the gods and Buddhas of Mount Lingshan to anesthetize the ignorant people and the ignorant people themselves. As the gods of the new era, we should pursue excellence and be superhuman. We should be strong and rule over those mediocre people." The mighty Garuda King pretended not to hear the conversation happening above his head. He flew desperately in the direction of the Tempest Temple on the Spirit Mountain in the west, his mind tossing and turning over the 2 things entrenched above his head. He swore that he would kill them in a rhythmic manner. However, after all, it was just a subsidiary personality that the Mahasthamapta Bodhisattva had released after denying itself. It did not have the eyes of wisdom that allowed it to see the fate above its head. If it could see the divine light of its own fate, it would realize that after experiencing a series of painful blows, not only did the fate that had been shaved off by Chanong not recover, but it was also brewing for the next tribulation. The Grand Supreme Elder, who was thousands of miles away, could not bear to watch. He turned to Chinong and said, "Celestial Venerable, you're going too far. The Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva is a person of great wisdom, perseverance, and compassion. Why are you humiliating him like this? This is only to sharpen the Zen heart. How is it humiliating? Chin Ong asked in return. Entering a filthy land, one can become a pure body of glaze. Entering a hell of excrement, one can become a pure land of purity. Bodhisattva, using the gods to pass. If the bodhisattva has no divine power and cannot be humiliated, is it to be a bodhisattva with a heart or with divine power? Is it to be a bodhisattva with compassion, wisdom, perseverance, and courage, or a bodhisattva with supreme power? If I am a bodhisattva with divine power, I can make everyone in the 3 realms a bodhisattva. Chin Ong smiled and said, "This is the tribulation of the 2 sages to test the Zen heart. The Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva should encourage them." I was speechless. Good. You're just giving him the power. He could only sigh and persuade. Celestial Venerable, you measure others by yourself. How do you know that there will not be such retribution in the future? If someone tests the Celestial Venerable's heart, what will you do? Chinong smiled and did not answer. He only stretched out his right hand and clenched it into a fist. The Elder Supreme Elder was stunned. "What do you mean, Celestial Venerable?" Chin Ong sneered and said, "If you want to test my Tao heart, have you asked my sandbag-sized iron fist?" The fist is power, the strength of the fist is power, and power is the Tao. Grasping the fist is grasping the Tao heart. The Elder Supreme Elder, I use compassion, wisdom, and perseverance to test the Tao heart of the great power because I have divine power and dharmic powers. The gods and Buddhas of Mount Lingshan claim to use compassion, wisdom, and perseverance to save all living beings. They are the Bodhisattva path. However, I want to expose one point. The so-called Bodhisattva path is the divine power and dharmic powers. The truth that surpasses all the Buddha scriptures is those with divine power, dharmic powers, strength, and authority can manipulate all the weak. The reason why Buddha is because he has power. Power is the truth that surpasses all compassion, wisdom, and perseverance. As for wisdom, perseverance, and courage, they're the conditions needed to obtain power. The pursuit of knowledge is the truth that controls all power. Bodhisattva is not the one who delivers all living beings from suffering. Gods and Buddhas are not the ones who save all living beings. They only obtain power through strength, courage, wisdom, and perseverance and manipulate all living beings. Chen Ong sneered and said, "What difference is there between what I do and what Buddhas do? Why are they enlightening all living beings while I'm humiliating them? If that old baldy Rulai studies hard and understands the truth of this world, he will grasp power that surpasses me. Then I welcome him to deliver me because he is practicing my truth. Practicing this world is objective, real, and cannot be changed by anyone's will. If you want to change the world and others, you can only rely on practice. You have to practice your will and overcome the resistance that is power. If you want to practice changing this world, you need to understand this objective world. Therefore, all actions and practices rely on power, and all power comes from the understanding of the objective world. This is the objective and unchanging truth of this world. It's not what I've heard or what the gods and Buddhas have said. Tathagata doesn't talk about this truth, but talks about those metaphysical and illusory things. He's really deceiving all living beings and himself. By doing this, I want to let the great power realize its mistake of deceiving itself and deny that one-sided false truth, returning to the objective and real world. To realize that the so-called delivering all living beings from suffering is to use power to manipulate all living beings and use power to carry out one's will. Adding any praise to it is a false deception. Laozi sighed and said, "Celestial Venerable is extreme." Chen Ong clenched his fists tightly again and smiled. "But at least I know what I'm doing. Does Bodhisattva know? Why does Rulai say that I'm a devil? Because I'm close to the great Tao and wish to know all objective truths and truth is only a one-sided truth. Therefore, when the truth of Buddhism is applied to the objective world, it will definitely be distorted. Because one-sided is added to the overall, and subjective is added to the objective, it will definitely be corrected by the objective world. If truth is flawed and verified in the world, it will definitely be tainted by the devil. Because the subjective is added to the objective, there will definitely be a reaction, and the one-sided truth will definitely contradict the real world. Therefore, the reaction of truth to the objective world is devil. Laozi said Tao, Rilai said truth, and they all said that strength is strength. When strength is applied, there will definitely be a reaction. On the contrary, this is a devil. In the three realms and outside the three realms, all the Daozu and Buddhas have said that they have achieved the Tao. Only I, Chinong, am still pursuing it. The Tao that everyone has achieved is the Tao of strength, the one-sided Tao. The Tao that I seek is the ultimate truth, the objective Tao, the comprehensive Tao. Therefore, when the truth of everyone's Tao meets my Tao, it will be countered by me. Because everyone in this world has achieved Tao, and I am the closest to it, therefore everyone's one-sided truth is tainted by the devil, and I am the supreme. That is why that old man Rulai called me the primordial heavenly devil, not the primordial, but the primordial beginning. Meaning is the most fundamental, original, and essential, and I am the most essential devil of his truth. Therefore, I harm all truth, and harm all those who have achieved it. Tainted by the devil, it is the most objective correction of the objective world. All gods and Buddhas who forcefully claim their own Tao will be tainted by the devil. He, Rilai, teaches the people of the world, and I, the devil, will make his teachings a joke. Therefore, my descendants will wear his kasaya and walk the devil's path in the name of Buddha. Why? It is just human nature. It originates from the heart, from one's nature, from the objective world, and from an objective existence. The power of the devil doesn't come from desire, nor does it come from demonic thoughts. It comes from the power of Buddha. When Buddha tries to change a person's nature, he will be countered by this objective nature. Therefore, in the future of Buddhism, the monks and bodhisattvas, greed, delusion, and anger will naturally come from the heart. The gods, Buddhas, and bodhisattvas think that this is the heavenly devil, devil, and demonic thoughts, and push it to Bo-Sun. He really doesn't know that I am the primordial, heavenly devil. Chapter 9:25. Garuda King Mighty Virtue flew west for 6 hours before noticing that the vegetation on the ground was sparse. As far as the eye could see, all he could see was yellow sand. He knew that he had reached the Aparagodania state. After flying southwest for another 2 days, he would reach the western paradise of Sindhu. He was overjoyed. He would be able to get rid of the filthy thing above him soon. However, the Jingmen god above him suddenly said, "Brother Bird, you've flown for a few hours. I believe you're far from the righteous canal. Monkey King probably won't be able to find you. I see traces of people below. Why don't we stop and rest for a while? What do you think, Brother Bird?" Jia Luo Wang, Dewey, didn't care about what the bird said. He snorted coldly in his heart. "Brother Bird? Who's your Brother Bird? You filthy thing humiliated me. When I reach the great Thunderclap Monastery, I'll definitely torture you to vent my hatred." The Jingmen god saw that it ignored him and asked a few more questions. Garuda King Mighty Virtue only cared about flying west. In the end, the Jingmen god said helplessly, "Brother Bird, you've misunderstood me too much. I'm the Golden Court Bodyguard, born from the will of Monkey King's modified organs. He knows that this monitoring consciousness is my ability to settle down. Now that I'm rooted in the sarcoma of Brother Bird's heart, how can I not know your thoughts and consciousness fluctuations? When I first took root, Brother Bird still had a divine and unfathomable main consciousness. At that time, I interacted with it and deeply felt that this consciousness had a profound realm and was proficient in these things. It was able to see, through the attachment of things and oneself, the existence and non-existence of things. Although it was too negative, willing to be mediocre, having the ability but not being a superhuman, it inevitably made people sigh. But he was also a wise man of the same path. I wanted to be a good friend. Unexpectedly, I only spoke a few words to him before he sealed himself and refused to communicate with me. He even released Brother Bird, his subsidiary personality. This shows how prejudiced the world is against me. The Jingmen god sighed. Hearing his words, Widgaruda couldn't help but recall how Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva was forced to seal his consciousness. At the end of his patience, Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva had no choice but to speak. How dare you taint my body, you ignorant filth! Since you wish to escape, release my seal and I will save you. If you offend me in the slightest, I will let you know that my Buddha also has the Vajra fury and the flame of the Wisdom King. So Brother Bird is a disciple of the Western Paradise Buddhism sect. The Spirit Gate Divine Lord said happily, I've long heard that the Western Paradise's Buddhists are unparalleled in dialectics and have high attainments in philosophy. The Sand Gate order did not accept female disciples. Masters, disciples, and brothers lived together day and night, debating with each other, exchanging words, and studying philosophy. The novice monk received teachings from the elders every night. It's the first organization in the 3 realms to systematically study philosophy. It really makes me yearn for it. The Spirit Gate Divine Lord only used 2 sentences to make Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva feel a fire burning in his heart, and his meditation was broken. The Spirit Gate Divine Lord was still nagging. I once mentioned Buddhism to the Monkey King and asked him to send me over to debate philosophy with the Sandgate Venerables, to study emptiness, materialism, and appearance. But he told me that there are countless temples under the great Thunderclap Monastery in the Western Paradise. Outside the sacred land of Mount Numinous, there are countless temples and Dharma realms, with tens of thousands of monks chanting and debating the Dharma. Every day, their excrement can produce billions of kilograms. That Cindy Farmer loves the excrement from this temple the most. Even the merchants who carry the excrement from the temples at the foot of Mount Numinous are more expensive than the others. I asked the Monkey King what was the reason behind this. The Monkey King told me, this excrement is different from the others. It's all from the masters, and when it's soaked, 1 load is worth 2 loads of excrement from the others. The Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva was furious, and his meditation turned to water. The Spirit Gate Divine Lord was still unaware and continued to court death. I'm laughing at the fact that the Monkey King must have remembered wrongly. There's no way he's poisoned. That Professor Chen's notes clearly said that Cindy's agriculture is very backward, and they haven't learned how to use excrement from the Central Plains. Shut up. The Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva couldn't help but reprimand. You're slandering Buddhism. Entering Avicii is like an arrow. Once you lose your human body, you'll never be able to come out, and you'll only suffer endless retribution. What followed next was the chanting of countless scriptures. The chanting was fast and messy, causing the Spirit Gate Divine Lord to feel dizzy and confused. Without the support of his psyche, the chanting of the scriptures was extremely dry, and the logic was laughable. If the Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva still had his mana, he would naturally be able to use his Lianhua to penetrate into the heart of others. However, Chen Ong had restricted his mana, causing his tongue to become clumsy. The Spirit Gate Divine Lord's head swelled, and he felt a headache coming on. He could only timidly ask, Can I interrupt for a moment? Shut up. The Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva was enraged, and his roar was as loud as a great bell. His murderous intent toward the Spirit Gate Divine Lord grew. Looking at the Spirit Gate Divine Lord's ugly appearance, he couldn't help but want to use his mana to send the Spirit Gate Divine Lord into the hell of Avicii. The Spirit Gate Divine Lord widened his only eye in extreme fear. The Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva wanted to use his mana, but he realized that his body was empty and there was an uncomfortable feeling of emptiness. He was shocked and thought to himself, "This is bad. That day when my fate was shaved, my wisdom and realm were shaved off. Now that I'm in the Bodhisattva realm, I'm like a tree without roots. My heart is dry and my meditation is broken. My cultivation is in danger of regressing. This filthy thing isn't worth mentioning in front of me, but now it can trigger the fire in my heart. This is the heavenly demon, Bo Sun, destroying my cultivation. This is a great calamity." The Spirit Gate Divine Lord immediately took the opportunity to seal his consciousness and stop feeling the outside world, cutting off the source of his troubles. While the Spirit Gate Divine Lord was still afraid of the Bodhisattva's anger, he saw the strange bird close its eyes, and its consciousness shrunk to the deepest part of the sea of consciousness. It entered a submerged state, and another consciousness that was 100 times weaker took over the body. The Spirit Gate Divine Lord took the opportunity to jump onto the strange bird's head. He cut open the tumor with a scalpel and transplanted his blood vessels and nerves with the Garuda bird's heart. Feeling the blood, chi, and essence, chi, nourishing his body, the Spirit Gate Divine Lord sighed in satisfaction. The transplant is finally a success. It just left Zhou Bofa's body, and without the nourishment of blood chi, it's too cold. Cold and tired. It's better to have a body. Kidney, I'll do the transplant for you now. Therefore, when he woke up, he felt that there was a vertical, fleshy, crown-like object on his head, and a kidney on his back. Garuda King Wade thought about it hatefully, and for a moment he gritted his teeth. His anger caused his blood chi to rush to his head, and he immediately felt that thing on his head stand up again. He was so embarrassed that he wanted to die, and he couldn't take it any more. "I'll fight it out with you." Garuda King Wade roared in his heart. Disregarding everything else, he rammed his head against a cliff. He flew at an extremely fast speed, and it seemed like he wanted to perish together with his enemy. The rocks on the cliff were as sharp as knives. Although the Garuda bird had a body of steel, it couldn't withstand such a ramming. The Spirit Gate Divine Lord sighed, and there were many laments in it. He lamented that he wasn't understood by the people of the world, and he lamented their ignorance and prejudice. Just as the massacre was about to take place, a demon king that was flying in the sky suddenly stopped in his tracks and said in surprise, "Why does this fellow have such a strange appearance? It actually has a handle on its head. What a waste of its gorgeous feathers. Is it trying to commit suicide by ramming its head against the cliff again? This fellow must have been wronged, and I can't just stand by and watch. Big Brother has gathered all the demon kings to find that monkey king, and he wants me to invite all the bird kings from all over the world. Although this fellow has a wretched appearance and a low cultivation base, he can still be of use." Chapter 9:26. But before the rock demon king could make a move, he saw the strange bird's peculiar flesh crown suddenly erect, and a milky white brilliance shot out from its single eye. It shrouded the body of the strange bird like a white cloud barrier. The rock demon king was shocked and subconsciously withdrew his demonic power to save it. But the strange bird shrouded in milky white clouds crashed into the cliff like a huge hammer, smashing the razor-like rocks on the cliff into pieces. The rock demon king saw the strange bird let out a long, sad, and indignant cry. Like the collision of metal and stone, it had an earth-shattering momentum. The strange bird became more and more indignant. After letting out a long cry, it only slammed its head into the surrounding boulders and cliffs, as if it wanted to destroy the jade and stone together. But under the protection of the milky white brilliance, it smashed into the rocks, and the cliffs collapsed. 1,000 feet tall mountain was smashed into the belly of the mountain, and in an instant it broke in the middle and collapsed with a loud bang. Seeing this, not only did the strange bird not stop, but it became more and more frenzied. This made the rock demon king could not help but sigh, such unyielding. There must be a strange grievance. I really don't know what kind of difficulties can force such a strange bird with such amazing bones, and a rock, cracking, cried to such a state. I should find out its feelings and do my best to help, so as to befriend such a strange bird. In the future, I will be able to be an arm. Then he opened his mouth and blew, and a dark demonic wind followed, blowing the sky and the earth, making the sun and moon lose their light. The wind blew past the mountain rocks, and the grass and trees were uprooted and swept into the sky. The crazy, strange bird had to temporarily stop in the face of this wind, and it was dizzy in this wind, almost unable to open its eyes. The Rock Demon King used the demonic wind to wrap Wade in front of him and stop the spell. He cupped his fists and said, "Brother, I heard the noise in the sky and came to check, but I saw that you seemed to have the intention to die, and you hit the cliff with your head, but you released a treasure light to protect yourself, so it was difficult to succeed. I am not talented, and I live in the hanging ridge of the great wilderness and have become sworn brothers with 6 brothers to fight against the demon emperor, equal to Heaven Great Emperor Monkey King. People call me Great Sage of Chaotic Heaven's Rock Demon King. Brother, I wonder what grievances you have to suffer such torment. If it's possible, there's no harm in telling me. If there really is a reason, I, as a member of the Heavenly Cycle's feather race, Demon King Bird, will definitely not stand idly by." Monkey King. Hearing these 3 words, Widgaruda lifted his head, gnashed his teeth, and roared. Monkey King, Heaven's equal demon emperor. Monkey King, you humiliated me like this. You actually humiliated me like this. I'm going to cut you into 1,000 pieces and serve you with wine. Hearing this, the Rock Demon King was shocked and thought to himself, "It's that Monkey King again. I wonder what's the inside story that made these demon kings hate the Monkey King so much." This monkey was unbridled and unbridled. The demon kings of the world had indeed suffered for a long time. With a wave of his arm, so many demon monarchs responded. Every time I see a demon of the same race, I feel hatred. Seeking revenge on Sunday is indeed a blessing from the heavens. It's in line with the will of the demons. Widgaruda vented for a while before calming down. Seeing this uninvited demon, his eyes flashed and he cupped his fists. "So it's Rock Demon King. I'm the great golden-winged Rock King of the Aparagodania continent. I came to the Nanjan section continent to visit a friend. When I passed by the Dragon Suppression Mountain, I was kidnapped by the Monkey King and tortured. I only managed to get out of the demon's lair today, so I lost my composure." "I see." The Rock Demon King sighed. "This Monkey King is utterly heartless. He actually kidnapped a fellow demon and tortured you. Looking at your cultivation, I should be older than you. Since we're both from the rock race, I'll be thick-skinned and call you brother. Brother, what did you suffer at the hands of the Monkey King? Tell me, I'll help you." Widgaruda King took advantage of the situation and immediately burst into tears. He said sorrowfully, "Big brother, that son Wukong isn't a son. He's shameless and despicable. He has committed many evil deeds and is extremely evil. I'm a man with a dignified face. After I fell into his hands, this monkey tied me up and brought me up to the stage. He stabbed me with knives and axes and tortured me. He wanted to refine me into a medicinal herb and a puppet. Brother, can you see the filth on my head? It was the one who put it on me." The Rock Demon King exclaimed in shock, "There's actually such a tragedy." He was shocked and angry at the same time. He said with lingering fear, "I didn't expect son Wukong to be so cruel." He looked at the ugly flesh crown of King Jialuolu and could not bear to look at it. "No wonder, brother, touched the cliff with your head. You wanted to smash this flesh crown into pieces." God, Lord Jingmen, couldn't help but explain after listening to Widgaruda King's nonsense. "Why are you guys so prejudiced against science? The Monkey King didn't want to harm your life. Isn't it glorious to sacrifice yourself for science? It's far better than your mediocrity. Listen to my advice. Get rid of your prejudice and treat me with sincerity. Bring me around the 3 realms to fulfill your ideals, research science, and comprehend philosophy. I'll guarantee you a brighter future. It's better than being an ignorant fool." Rock Demon King saw the flesh crown's eye open and closed. He stood up in shock. This thing can actually talk. Garuda King said angrily, "Not only can it talk, brother, this filth can even use divine arts to force me. You saw the demonic light that protected me. It was released by it. The Monkey King must have created this evil thing to control the demons in the world. He wants to make him the emperor of the demons. His evil intentions should be put to death. Brother, please help me get rid of this thing." Garuda King didn't need to pretend. He was filled with endless grief and indignation. The Rock Demon King's expression was solemn as he said in a low voice, "Brother, this isn't just about you. It's about Sun Wukong forcing us, Demon Kings, to enslave us. It's a matter for all demons. If the Monkey King succeeds, will there still be a place for us to live freely in the three realms? Will there still be a place for us to live? Brother, don't worry. I, Rock Demon King, will take responsibility for this. Even if I can't do it, there's still my brother, Bull Demon King, and a few other Demon Kings with high cultivation. We must eradicate this thing." God, Lord Jingmin, couldn't help but say, "Listen to me. The Monkey King and I are pursuing the truth of science. We don't want to enslave you. This kind of thinking is sick. Have you heard of persecutory delusion? I'm just looking for a mount. I have no intention of controlling you. Did you hear that? If I want to control you, I have 10,000 ways to make you have no choice." God, Lord Jingmin, said earnestly to the huge bird he was sitting on, "But I've always been tolerant, understanding, and friendly. I've tried to get you to put down your prejudice and discrimination. I've tried to get you to understand and tolerate each other." Chapter 9:27. The Rock Demon King's face was solemn as he observed the sarcoma on Garuda's head. "Brother," he said solemnly, "is the root of this filth your heart acupoint?" Garuda's face was solemn as he shouted, "Brother, there is no need to be afraid. Even without my heart acupoint, I will remove this filth and restore my pure body." The Rock Demon King tried his best to persuade him. "Brother, there is no need to be like this. My brother, the Bull Demon King, is stronger than me, and this thing is troublesome for me. But with his help, there might be a solution. Brother, think twice." Garuda said, "Brother, there is no need to persuade me. Only I know the depth of this filth's roots, and I have the heart to be disgraced. Even if I lose my heart, I will eradicate this thing." God, Lord Jingmin, also sighed and said, "Why did we have to go to this extent where we are irreconcilable enemies? If you don't want me to merge with you, then say it. How would I know what you are thinking if you don't say it? If you say it, I will find a way to find a willing host. Why is there such a deep prejudice against me in the three realms? Forget it. Forget it. You don't have to cut out my heart. I will leave." "You still want to leave?" Garuda gritted his teeth. "Even if I lose my heart, I will grind your bones to dust." "Brother, do it." Garuda suddenly shouted. The Rock Demon King's eyes flashed. The rock feather in his hand slashed down and cut off the sarcoma on Garuda's head. Pure green blood splattered as the sarcoma fell down along with the ugly flesh crown. King Garuda let out a painful cry as the poison accumulated by the poison-eating dragon in his body immediately flared up. A strand of green-black gas rose from his abdomen and instantly stained his chin. Even so, Garuda still tried to kill Lord Jingmin. The hatred in his heart was greater than his life, and even if he died from the poison, Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva could resurrect him after the calamity. But this humiliation was something he would never be able to erase for all eternity. The spirit gate divine Lord sighed. Why bother? Huang Ting's body and spirit had innate magical powers. Primordial Elixir Lord could produce blood essence to increase the strength of the dragon elephant. Brain Lord was divine and had a myriad of thoughts. On the other hand, my divine ability can be big or small, and it's all-pervasive. It's the number one escape technique amongst the Golden Hall divine abilities. Kidneys. Lord God Xian jumped out from the hump on King Garuda's back and laughed. My kidney spirit's supernatural power is endless mana and essence chi. Sir God Xian and Sir God Spirit Gate said in unison, once we combine our divine powers, we will be able to transcend beyond the mortal world. We will be able to form the number one escape divine power among the Golden Hall's divine powers. Seamless entry and exit, transcending the mortal world. As soon as he finished his sentence, a ray of white light shot out from Sir God Jingmin's eye and enveloped Sir God Xian and himself. In an instant, it shrunk into a ray of white light and disappeared into the void. Garuda spat out a mouthful of green blood. His face was ashen as he said in defeat, since your escape arts are superb. Why did you possess my body and humiliate me? Can't you escape by yourselves? We can't. Sir God Jingmin's voice came from the void. Even if I have the number one escape technique among the Golden Hall divine abilities, seamless entry and exit, it's no match for the Monkey King's 3 realms in one thought and quantum amorphous cloud. I can pierce through space and enter the tiny wormholes in the void, but the Monkey King is omnipresent. He is entangled with any quantum in the 3 realms. Therefore, the 3 realms is the Monkey King, and the Monkey King is the 3 realms. Originally, there was Gautama Buddha who used his supreme psyche to protect the West, preventing its quantum from entangling with the Monkey King. That's why I wanted to use you to escape to the spirited mountain in the West. Unfortunately, Sir God Brain just sent me a message. Gautama Buddha of Spirited Mountain is meditating and fighting against an otherworldly demon in neither thought nor thought heaven. Spirited Mountain is no longer protected by anyone, so I have to go to the heaven court. That's why I had to part ways with you. So, King Garuda's face was completely black. The poison of the dragon had entered his brain and cut off his life force. His face was ashen as he said, "You were planning to leave?" There was no reply from the void. It was unknown if Sir God Jingmin could not bear to expose the cruel truth, or if he had already left for the heaven court. King Wide Garuda could no longer suppress the Jiao dragon poison in his body. He convulsed and fainted. The Rock Demon King was shocked and shouted, "Brother? Brother?" He tested Garuda's breathing and thought, "Oh no, my brother's heart is being attacked by the poison. He's in grave danger. Only Big Brother can save him now." As soon as he finished, he carried King Wide Garuda on his back and headed towards the east. As he was leading the way, he saw the blood in the sarcoma of his heart slowly coagulating. The color was clear and green, and it was about to condense into a glazed pearl. He knew that this was the key to suppressing the poison in his brother's body, so he swallowed it. The rock race was born to devour all things. There was a huge space in their abdomen, like a space opened up by the cosmos withdrawing sleeve. The rock race was used to hiding their treasures there. Unexpectedly, the pearl was not limited by the rock race's natural supernatural power. It broke through the space and turned into a warm current that flowed into the Rock Demon King's abdomen. The Rock Demon King was shocked, but he did not find anything unusual when he used his mana to check his body. Moreover, saving the demon was more important, so he suppressed his doubts and flew straight to where the Bull Demon King was. He did not know that the Garuda bird of Aparagodania was also known as the Golden-Winged Rock. It was also a branch of the rock race. The nature of the rock race was better than supernatural power. The Tao of reproduction was the highest judgment among their natural instincts. There was a saying that the combination of yin and yang was superior to all other laws. That was why the Rock Demon King was helpless against it. After the Rock Demon King flew away, a golden light flew out from the void and turned into a macaque. It was the Monkey King. The Monkey King laughed. "I came all the way from Aeoli Nation, and this is the first time I've seen 2 males pregnant. This rock demon king is really pitiful, and that Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva has violated the precept of lust. I wonder who that Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva has offended to have such bad luck. But thinking about it, only my black-hearted master would do such a thing. Before the Monkey King could finish laughing, a bolt of lightning appeared out of nowhere. It crossed the boundaries of time and space and struck the Monkey King's head, causing him to fall to the ground. The Monkey King hurriedly shouted, "Master, I was wrong. Don't strike me any more." Hearing this, the faint lightning in the sky dissipated. The Monkey King heaved a sigh of relief and thought, "My master is a narrow-minded person. I can't say bad things about him anymore. The Rock Demon King's pregnancy is really a rare thing. I have to follow behind it and study it secretly. I want to see if I can create a supernatural power that can impregnate those deities and Buddhas." Chapter 9:28. Devdatta looked at his cousin, Siddhartha Gautama, sitting between the twin solid trees in Banacity. His face was lonely as he sat cross-legged in front of the Gautama Buddha. After Sakyamuni, Devdatta was the most intelligent and talented person among the many Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who were reincarnated with Buddha into the mortal world. Even the four great Bodhisattvas like Samantabhadra and Manjushri would find it hard to break through the realm of truth and enter the lowest level of the three realms' dimensional entanglement. Outside of Brahma, they would be able to see Brahma and confront Buddha, Tathagata in Brahma. Only Devdatta could come into contact with the realm of reality. He was just one step away from breaking through all nothingness and entering the highest realm of colorless dhyana, escaping into the three realms of Anapanjana and Anapanjana to lend Rilai a hand. However, when he told Sakya, Mani, and the other disciples about this, he was unanimously opposed. Sariputta had even used Sakyamani's last words to forbid him from searching for the place where Sakyamani's consciousness had gone after entering meditation. However, Devdatta was the number one person in the Buddhist sect, second only to the Gautama Buddha. He had many followers. Even in the great Lane Temple of Spirited Mountain, Devdatta was the leader of the 8 great protectors. Even the 4 great bodhisattvas and the Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva could only lead the Garuda tribe, but Devdatta could lead an entire tribe by himself. A beautiful and dignified monk quietly came behind him. Devdatta didn't even open his eyes and said, "Ananda, do you still want to persuade me?" Outside the colorless realm, the revered, one of the worlds beyond heavens, Brahman, yet you don't allow me to help. Are you afraid that I will obtain enlightenment from the revered one and destroy the nonsense of Shariputra and Subhuti? Ananda stooped down and touched Devdatta's feet. He said respectfully, "Brother, in the past Buddha and the Jade Emperor had discussion. We asked the sky-bearing empire to follow the example of the Huda Emperor and give up samsara. You once objected angrily, saying that the 6 paths of reincarnation's division of good and evil is not the right path. All living beings arise from fate and perish because of fate. Everything is impermanent. Every reincarnation should be a brand new individual. I don't want to bring the troubles of my previous life to the future. Great Monarch Hutu is selfless and selfless. She sees the living beings as nothing but dogs. That is the most benevolent heart, far surpassing the 6 paths reincarnation. The revered, one of the revered, one of the revered, one of the revered, one of His Majesty's Dipankara ancient Buddha was annihilated, seizing the 4 protectors of the celestial being, Asura, Kinara, and Dragon tribes. Only after he was reborn with the Biji Buddha did he bestow the Kinara and Dragon tribes to him. Later on, before the 300 tribulations, the revered one of the world discussed with the Jade Emperor to set up the net of karma so that all living beings would be rewarded for their good and evil deeds. You spoke out against it, saying that all living beings are impermanent, therefore they are sorrowful and suffering. Being able to give birth to a transcendent heart is the first cause of the 4 wonderful truths. Therefore, opportunities are impermanent, karma is impermanent, and there is no such thing as karma. The revered one of the world took away your dragon tribe's protector as punishment. Now that Manjushri and Samantabhadra have obtained scriptures from the outer world cult master, they want to set up the karmic retribution of good and evil in order to promote the Bodhisattva hammer and the path of Mahayana. They want to open up the Pure Land to enlighten all living beings. Shariputra, Subhuti, and the rest agreed. You scolded them in front of them, saying that the Pure Land is an external path and that reincarnation can't save all living beings. There are only 3 seals, impermanence, anatta, and nirvana, to transcend the sea of suffering. Devdatta finally opened his eyes and stared at Anand angrily. The mind is free from the mind, free from worries, free from thoughts, free from desires, free from desires, free from desires, no gain, no life. Bodhi, all illusions are complete. There is no coming nor going. The nature of life and death is real. There is no life and no death. The mind shows the Tripitaka. The Tripitaka is silent, called nirvana. This is the right path of enlightenment. The Dharma can only enlighten oneself, not others. Sakyamuni is an enlightened being, not a deity. The 3 subtleties and 3 Bodhi of a mudra do not seek external help, nor do they seek Bodhisattva's help. Instead, they seek inward and learn Buddhism. The other side of the sea of bitterness, with enlightenment of Sakyamuni, was like a bright lamp in the sea of bitterness, illuminating the path ahead, but he could not help. To guide people to the Nirvana realm boat is to rely on one's own heart and strength. Nowadays, some people say that the wisdom of Sakyamuni is like the golden bridge on the sea of bitterness. The Nirvana realm is not in the silence of Nirvana, but in the 3 realms and the Pure Land. This is the saying of the heterodox demons. The 3 realms is a sea of bitterness, and the Pure Land is also a sea of bitterness. Manjushri, Samantabhadra, and deceiving all living beings use the Pure Land of the sea of bitterness as the shore of the Paramitha. Only by not being able to attain enlightenment and not knowing nirvana can one transcend the troubles. What an evil demon! The karma of samsara, the cause and effect of good and evil, are constant, not impermanent. The Bodhisattva hammer and the great vehicle of salvation say that there is self, not non-self. The Pure Land and the land of ultimate bliss say that there is Paramitha, not nirvana. Devdatta opened his eyes wide and shouted angrily, "Isn't that against the 3 seals?" Using the words of gods and Buddhas to deceive all living beings in the 3 realms. Bodhisattvas should be killed. The words of the revered one of the world. In addition to the 3 seals, there is also the seal of reality. Ananda explained. Who is the revered one? Devdatta asked indifferently. Is it Buddha Tathagata, or Sakyamuni, or Gautama Siddhartha? Ananda exclaimed in shock, Devdatta, do you doubt Buddha? 1,000 tribulations ago, the revered one of the world preached to me. He once said, if you obtain the Buddha's seal, you will be unobstructed. If you obtain the king's seal, there will be no difficulties. Even if it is not what the revered one of the world has said, those who have obtained the 3 Dharma seals can also be regarded as Buddha's words. Even if it is Buddha's words, those who violate the 3 Dharma seals are also heretical. Devdatta said calmly, this is my revered one of the world. After I was demoted from the position of Dipankara ancient Buddha, I was once disheartened. I meditated on the 3 tribulations and wanted to undergo nirvana and perish, following the venerable of the world. Finally, in meditation, he thoroughly understood that the revered one of the world was the one who had attained the truth of the world. He was Sakyamuni. Before 1,000 tribulations, the revered one was still the revered one. After 1,000 tribulations, Tathagata was no longer the revered one. Gods are not Buddhas. Buddha is an enlightened one, not a god, nor can he enlighten people. Today's Buddha Tathagata is the Buddha's troubles, the manifestation of your troubles. It is the Buddha in the hearts of all living beings, but it is not my Buddha. It is a devil. Devdatta! Ananda stood up in shock and said, Are you going to betray Buddha? Ananda, Devdatta smiled and said, My younger brother, after I understood this principle, my meditation was shaken. When I became an ancient Buddha, I could already meditate to the four skies and beyond the colorless realm to see the truth of the world. After my meditation was shaken, I was trapped in the colorless realm. Now that the extraterrestrial evil demon Brahmin is attacking, I can finally verify whether Buddha Tathagata is the revered one of the world. If Buddha Tathagata is close to Brahmin, then Buddha Tathagata is an unorthodox evil demon, the revered one of the troubles of becoming Buddha. If Buddha Tathagata is not Brahmin, then I will die in nirvana and leave in peace. Devdatta smiled and said to Ananda. Behind him, 500 Buddhas and 3,000 guardians of Dharmakara walked out. They were all his followers. The ancient Buddhas of Spirited Mountain were now led by Biji Buddha. They sat around Gautama, Siddhartha, and Devdatta, watching the result of his meditation to find Buddha. There were 3,000 Buddhas in Spirited Mountain, and each of them was different. In the past, there were 1,000 Buddhas in the ancient Buddhas. After Dipankara fell, 300 of them left. After being reprimanded by the Buddhas, another 200 of them left. Now there were only 500 Biji Buddhas. Under the withering and flourishing trees, Devdatta died and went to the Anisattva heaven. Ananda's meditation was shaken. He looked at Devdatta's corpse in shock. After a day and night, Ananda saw Devdatta's corpse open his eyes and shed tears of blood. Biji Buddha Kanara descended from the sky. He cried out 3 times in grief and laughed crazily. He shouted, The revered one of the world is dead. Buddhas, follow me to destroy Spirited Mountain. All Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are evil followers. Only impermanence can awaken one's heart and make one realize righteousness. I want all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to sink into the sea of bitterness. Spirited Mountain and Pure Land become, exist and disappear. All Buddhas are impermanent. Good and evil are impermanent. Cause and effect are impermanent. Follow me to break the 6 realms and confuse good and evil. Turn into an external evil and set up a trial for Buddhas. The righteous Dharma is dead and the unorthodox path is rampant. The final trial is impossible. I am the lawless heaven. Chapter 9:29. In the Garden of Solitude, a bhikkhu rushed in and knelt before Fu Lu. He said with a trembling voice, Venerable Sariputta sent news that Devdatta and his 500 disciples have joined the devil. They have injured Venerable Ananda and swore to destroy Spirited Mountain and make all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas fall into the sea of bitterness. You're late, Fu Lu said with his back facing him. The bhikkhu raised his head in shock and carefully walked to Fu Lu. A black palm print was imprinted on Fu Lu's chest, shattering his golden body. Fu Lu was long dead. Just when he was scared out of his wits, Fu Lu's broken golden body suddenly said, Don't be afraid. This is my last thought before I perish. I'll leave it to you. Devdatta has already joined the devil. He came to discuss Dharma with me. I'm known as the number 1 under the revered Buddha, but I couldn't defeat Devdatta's shocking evil thoughts. Later on, I forced myself to fight, but he broke my golden body and perished in 3 moves. Pass my last words to Sariputta. After joining the devil, Devdatta's supernatural power has improved tremendously. Not even Sariputta, Subhuti, Mahakakasayapa, Mujamlian, and Analu could defeat him. Protect Venerable Analu. He has the number 1 heavenly eye and is the only one who can see through Devdatta's movements. After me, Devdatta's next target is him. Mahakakasayapa can distinguish deep meaning and apply it to Taoism. That's why he's known as the number 1 in the discussion of meaning. I'm afraid he's already in trouble before me. Because we're the best at discussing Dharma, Devdatta tried to refute the Dharma passed down by the revered Buddha. That's why he came to us first. What Devdatta wants is to destroy the Mahayana realm. We, the 10 great disciples, are all Shungwen Mahayana and Yuanjua Mahayana. Devdatta is an evil follower who wants to shake our Zen hearts and turn us into his minions. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of Spirited Mountain are all disciples of Mahayana. The Bodhisattva hammer is an outsider in Devdatta's eyes. He won't subdue them and must kill them all. Devdatta, a disciple of the 3 Mahayana, led the Bodhisattva Mahayana to rebel against Buddhism, fighting for the support of the Arhats of the Vajrayana Mahayana. Go and tell Shariputra about my worries. I'm afraid that among the top 10 disciples, there might be someone who will side with Devdatta. After Fu Luna finished speaking, he kowtowed and bowed his head. He did not speak any more, as if a trace of ignorance and vexation had already left. The bhikkhu disciple knelt for a long time, but he did not hear Fu Luna's mantra anymore. He had no choice but to endure his grief, get up, and prepare to leave this dangerous place. Before he left and closed the door of the hall, he suddenly heard Fu Lu's voice that seemed to have hesitated for a long time and finally could not help but warn him. "Be careful of Ananda and row!" The bhikkhu looked up, but Fu Luna's golden body was dim and unresponsive. He did not know if it was Fu Lu's last message or his illusion. A day later, Shariputra, Mugjianlian, and Subhuti arrived from Bishali city. When they saw the broken golden body of Fu Luna, their faces were filled with anger and grief. Shariputra went forward and asked Fu Luna's golden body to be placed together with the golden body of Jiazhanyan that he brought. He said to the disciples of the Revered One who descended with the Revered One, "Devdatta has already betrayed Buddha. Fu Luna and Jiazhanyan were both harmed by him and have already entered the cycle of samsara." The disciples all revealed a sorrowful expression. They put their palms together and remained silent. The atmosphere was very depressing. Shariputra saw the sorrow in the disciples' hearts, so he stood at the head and said solemnly, 2 days ago, Ananda came to me and told me that Devdatta had disobeyed the Revered One's decree and entered the dhyana, heaven, to find the place where the Revered One fought against Brahman. After he came out of the dhyana heaven, he immediately betrayed Buddha. Mugjianlian said Devdatta had slandered Buddha several times and questioned the Revered One's true words and decrees. The Revered One had issued decrees to belittle him twice. It's not surprising that he would commit such a great betrayal. We should invite the Bodhisattvas of Spirited Mountain to come and slay this devil together. He will be banished to hell and suffer immeasurable suffering. Shariputra did not act rashly. Instead, he pondered and said, Devdatta came to this world as the cousin of the Revered One. Moreover, he has always been highly respected. Many bhikkhus and bhikkhunis are confused by him. Many Buddhas and Arhats of Spirited Mountain are also shaken. Now, calming the hearts of the people is the most important thing. Otherwise, if more sons of Buddha follow him into the devil, it will be a great disaster for Spirited Mountain Buddhism. Mugjianlian said, May I ask, Senior Apprentice Brother, how can we calm the hearts of the people? Shariputra pondered for a long time and said, Before the 1,000 tribulations, Devdatta was the Dipankara ancient Buddha. He was the leader of the ancient Mahayana. Now that the Revered One has comprehended the Mahayana, Bodhisattva Mahayana, Devdatta has questioned and rebelled. There are many followers of the ancient Buddhas. Now in Spirited Mountain, the ancient Buddhas are living in seclusion. But if Devdatta raises his flag, other than his 500 followers, many will be shaken. Therefore, Devdatta cannot be the Dipankara ancient Buddha. Dipankara ancient Buddha has already perished. Mahakasyapa stepped out and said, Junior Apprentice Brother is here. Shariputra ordered him, Go to Spirited Mountain and look for the relic left by the Revered One when he ordered the Dipankara ancient Buddha to perish. This relic is the former position of Devdatta and can restrain him. Shariputra continued, Devdatta entered the devil, but he was limited to Bodhisattva Mahayana and Arhat Buddhahood. He did not see the Mahayana and used the Hinayana Buddhism to question the Mahayana Buddhism. You must know that the Mahayana is above the Hinayana. For example, the ox cart comes out of the house of fire. Using the Hinayana Dharma Midra to doubt the Mahayana Bodhisattva Tao is like asking for alms and doubting the boat. It is self-righteous. But now the Arhats, who have cultivated the Hinayana, still have doubts about the true Dharma. Therefore, we cannot say so. After thinking for a long time, Shariputra ordered Aboa, Venerable Aboa, go and tell the disciples that Devdatta committed the 5 sins of treason and plotted to kill the revered one. He ordered 500 disciples to throw stones to kill the Buddha, but failed. Then he threw a huge stone at Mount Jiraiya. Although the stone was blocked by the deity Jin Pila, the Buddha's foot was injured and bled. Then, when the Buddha entered the king's temple, he released a wild elephant to harm him. However, the elephant surrendered to the Buddha and failed. After the revered one reprimanded him, he did not change his evil thoughts and beat the lotus flower bhikkhuni to death. He also poisoned his 10 fingers and claws, intending to hurt the Buddha by worshipping the Buddha's foot. However, the Buddha's foot was as hard as a rock. Devdatta broke his own fingers and died there. Aboa was shocked. Devdatta died? Then, how do you explain that evil demon? Shariputra sneered. That evil demon is King Kinara of the 8 guardians of Spirited Mountain. After Kinara cultivated to become a bodhisattva, he did not listen to my advice and went to see Brahman. Because he saw Brahman, he fell into the devil and called himself Wutian. Only then can we eliminate Devdatta's influence and prevent him from bewitching the Arhat. Aboa obeyed and left. Wutian said, "But that evil demon is rampant and we cannot let him go. Senior, martial brother, please invite the bodhisattvas of Spirited Mountain with me to subdue this demon." Shariputra said, "Although Devdatta is a great threat, that Brahman who transformed into Brahman is an unparalleled demon that forced the revered one to meditate. Also, that immeasurable heavenly lord who came from the west is not a good person either. Compared to those 2 demons, Devdatta is not a big threat. If we only pay attention to him, the other 2 demons will take the opportunity to cause trouble, and we will be in danger." Wutian said, "What does Senior Martial Brother think?" Chapter 930. The Rock Demon King flew to where the demons were gathered. His speed was extremely fast, and with a flap of his wings he could fly 90,000 miles away. Although he was carrying the burden of Garuda, it only took a little more effort. Halfway there, the Rock Demon King sensed something was wrong. He endured the nausea churning in his stomach and spread his 3 wings into 2, rushing to where the Bull Demon King was gathered. The Bull Demon King was having a banquet with a group of demon kings when he heard his subordinate report, "The 3 kings are back!" He hurriedly got up to welcome them. Just as he got up, he saw the Rock Demon King stumbling over with his forehead beaded with sweat. The Bull Demon King went up to support him, exclaiming, "Third brother, why did you come back so weak? Why didn't you invite the bird kings over? I'm quite eloquent and have a rough understanding of the art of medicine. I wonder if Brother Nyo is willing to let me try?" Among the guests invited by the Bull Demon King was a pure, white old fox. He was the most senior and kind. It was said that he had lived for 10,000 years, hence the title of 10,000 Fox King. Seeing the Rock Demon King's bad expression, he invited him. "Then I'll leave it to you, sir." The Bull Demon King had also heard of the 10,000 Fox King's abilities. He was old and shrewd, and the fox race was the most cunning. This 10,000 Fox King definitely had some skills. The 10,000 Fox King immediately helped the Rock Demon King to sit down and tried to feel his pulse. Suddenly, he showed a look of surprise and frowned, causing the Bull Demon King to worry. After a long while, he let go of the Rock Demon King's wrist, his expression uncertain. He gave the Bull Demon King a look and followed him out of the cave, avoiding the Rock Demon King. The Bull Demon King said worriedly, Sir, how is my brother? The 10,000 Fox King hesitated. He's fine, he's fine. It's just that he was in too much of a hurry and affected the fetus. The fetus is affected. Bull Demon King's expression was as if he had been struck by lightning. He asked in a daze, "What do you mean by affected the fetus is affected?" He came back to his senses and exclaimed, "How can my brother have the fetus? 10,000 Fox King. You have to give me a proper explanation. Did you make a mistake?" The 10,000 Fox King thought for a moment and asked, "Brother Nyo, think carefully. What is the original form of your brother?" "Rock Demon King." The Bull Demon King was stunned. "Of course, he is the original form of the rock. What does this have to do with the fetal chi?" The 10,000-year-old Fox King was experienced and knowledgeable. He said softly, "I've heard that there's a type of golden-winged rocks in the West. They're neither male nor female, and they don't need to be nurtured by yin and yang to become pregnant. So," the Bull Demon King's expression crumbled as he said, "so even my brother can get pregnant." At this time, the Rock Demon King had already caught his breath. He shouted, "Big Brother Ox King, don't worry about me. Saving people is more important. On my way back, I met a fellow clansman. He was heavily injured and is on the verge of death. Please save him, Ox King." The 10,000-year-old old Fox King nodded repeatedly and said, "That's right. It must have been the meeting of two golden-winged rocks. One took its crown and placed it in the belly of the Pung King, thus giving birth to it." The Bull Demon King rushed out to take a look and was instantly shocked. An insensible Demon King beside him joked, Isn't this the strange bird that you hit?" The Bull Demon King's expression was awkward. He hurriedly signaled to the Demon Kings beside him with his eyes, telling them to pull the insensible one away. At this time, the 10,000-year-old Fox King had already consciously gone forward to save him. After a round of massage, the greenish-black chi on King Jia Luolo's face subsided. Only then did the Bull Demon King have time to consider. "Not good. Brother Rock King actually found a lover the moment he left. If he knew that I had accidentally hurt my brother's wife, wouldn't it ruin our brotherhood?" He slowly walked into the cave abode. Seeing the anxious and expectant look on the Rock Demon King's face, he felt even more guilty. He said gently, "Brother Rock, don't worry. With the Fox King here to save you, your wife should be fine. As for you, don't disturb the fetus." His words were all over the place. What, your wife? Disturb the fetus and so on. The Rock Demon King was confused and very confused. It was said that a pregnant woman would be stupid for 3 years. After the Rock Demon King's belly gave birth to the fetus, his reaction was much slower. He lowered his head and thought for a long time before coming back to his senses. He said in shock, "Brother, what nonsense are you talking about? If you continue like this, don't blame me for disregarding the brotherhood and falling out with you." The Bull Demon King said, "Rock King, don't be anxious. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have accidentally hurt my sister-in-law after drinking." This entanglement and misunderstanding made the Rock Demon King's expression change on the spot. He picked up the phoenix wing gilded drum and was about to fall out with the Bull Demon King. A group of Demon Kings went up and tried to stop and persuade him. It was very chaotic. The Bull Demon King was in the wrong after all. He thought that his accidental injury had been exposed, so he didn't dare to fight back. The group of people argued for a long time before explaining. The Monkey King cast an invisibility spell and crossed his legs to watch the show from the top of the cave. After the Rock Demon King knew the truth, he was completely dumbfounded on the spot. He circulated his demonic chi to disperse the fetus in his belly. When he used his magic power, he felt pain. The 10,000-year-old Fox King hurriedly stopped him. "Rock King, don't move recklessly. The fusion of the fetus is part of your nature. It's entangled with your life. If you continue, I'm afraid you'll lose half your life." The Rock Demon King shouted, So be it. If people find out and give birth to a child, would I still have the face to be a demon? Fox King, I know your medical skills are profound. Quickly help me abort this evil fetus, lest I'll be ashamed for half my life and live a life worse than death. The 10,000-year-old Fox King had never done such a strange thing as abort a man's fetus. He turned pale with fright. Even if you abort the fetus, you're a man. You don't have a birth canal, so how are you going to get out? Moreover, I've never been a midwife before, so I have no experience. The Rock Demon King saw that his belly was getting bigger and said in panic, "How can it be so fast? The waves of turbulence are very tight. It must be the pain of breaking the formation. I've only swallowed that sarcoma for half a day. Why am I having such a sudden rush?" The 10,000-year-old Fox King explained, "You've forgotten that the birds and feather species all transform from eggs, unlike viviparous birth where they have a shape when they're born. The fetal chi will be used to form an egg in your belly, and after the egg is laid, the fetus will be nurtured in the egg. Even the golden rock is like that. I'm afraid it's going to be born in half a day." The Rock Demon King's face was ashen. He hardened his heart, took out a dagger, and was about to cut open his belly to take out the fetus. The Bull Demon King couldn't bear to see this, and said, "Brother, this is your flesh and blood fetus after all. How can you be so cruel to take out a bloody ball? Isn't it frightening? Listen to me. I have a brother who lives in the Western Mother Kingdom of Kunlun. There are only women in the Western Mother Kingdom, and there are no men. There's a Zimu River in the country, which is nurtured by the Taiyin Chi. If you eat it, you'll feel abdominal pain and fetus. There's always a counter to everything in the world. The Western Mother Kingdom has a Mount Jiang, and there's a hole in the mountain. In the hole, there's a spring of childbirth that can transform the fetal chi. The Western Mother Kingdom has the protection of the Almighty, and they have some relations with the Western Mother Kingdom in the sky. Even though my brother, true immortal Ru Yi, begged me a few times to help him occupy Mount Jiang, so that he can be worshipped by the Western Mother Kingdom, who are about to give birth, I didn't allow it. Now that you're in trouble, I'll definitely get the spring of childbirth, so that you can transform the fetal chi.